Welcome to Escape Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hopes that we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week, leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape Supernatural Purgatory. Hi everyone! So just at the beginning of this episode, this is actually the second recording of this, because we did record this episode with our good friend Charlie a while ago, but when I came to edit it, it was no good. Look, if it was going to happen on any episode, it would be this one. Our luck clearly ran out. We haven't had to do any re-records yet until this one, and it was always going to be this way. We are Sam Winchester.
Amy, if you wanted to hang out with me again, all you had to do was ask.
I know. I didn't have to purposely corrupt the audio files. So here we are, and I mean, yes, with the energy's a little weird in this one. It's because we have already said a lot of things we said, but we will try and get all the main points through.
Doing a rewatch of an episode we've already watched,
yeah,
I saw a lot more things this time round. So I guess we should probably tell everybody what the episode is. So this episode is season 3, episode 3, Bad Day at Black Rock, and this one was written by Ben Edlund.
My boy.
I have written Amy's boy.
And it was directed by Robert Singer, which you could tell.
Yeah, I can tell when Robert Singer's directing. That's
Did
what I'm
he
gonna say.
direct the first episode that was supposed to be a Western in this season?
No,
Ken was.
Kim Manners directed the first episode of the season.
Because it's interesting to me, that one's supposed to be Western style, but then this one's named after a classic noir Western. So I don't know if they were trying to do that a little bit, but obviously very different directing style.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have liked to have seen what Kim Manners did with this. Can you imagine this episode in his style? Like, it would have been...
With the zoom-ins and the emotions on the face.
That would have been great. Like, Sam's, like, upset face and, like, just general, like, disposition for this whole entire episode would have been great.
It would have been awesome. I would love that.
Like, Jared's pouty, like, over-pouty faces throughout this entire episode, I can't understand. It would just be a zoom-in on them.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's do the episode. We can totally do this, guys. I can feel the listeners rooting for us because it's already chaotic.
Which I mean, this is the perfect energy for this episode. So you know what?
Yeah,
let's run with it.
So what's missing in this versus the silly episodes to come is they end up with this montage that's like, it's okay. This show has been batshit crazy before.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it will be again.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
But instead, I think for the first 3 minutes of this episode, you would think that it's going to be this, like, dark, serious, like all other Gordon episodes. No.
So I guess we can go through the recap real fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically, because we're so close to the end of season 2, there's a lot of that sort of stuff coming up. We have a little bit of Ruby's introduction, and then we also get Gordon's introduction and a little bit of Hunted as well. It's got the scene that I hate the most, probably so far of Supernatural, of like Gordon having the police called on him when he's like firing guns. I'm like, yeah, that's not reality. And then the reveal that Ruby's a demon.
I noticed this time they also repeat that Sam knows about the demon deal, knows that he has died, which changed the way I saw certain things in this episode from when I hadn't watched the recap.
It's an interesting one. We're at a weird place in the season, so it's right at the beginning. Dean's still struggling with his Crossroads deal. Ruby's come around and said that, she's going to help him get out of it, which is the main tension of this season.
In a way, it's also like the first story episode of the season. Like, things hadn't been kicked off for the season by the premiere.
Yeah. We talked about this in episode 1, that like there was really low stakes in that episode for some reason, and like it didn't really go anywhere, and it was just sort of Dean dealing with him going to hell, I guess, a little bit, but not really. It's kind of confronted a bit more here as well in his interactions with Bella.
So you're right. This is the first sort of, is a continuation of the story that we already know. Mm-hmm. So we already know who Gordon is, and we already know his motivations. Yeah. And so now it's just sort of building upon that. Sort of almost sets up for the next few episodes, really.
Yeah, I think so too.
After the recap, we are in a prison. We see this man, and he's being, like, the metal detector wand is being waved over him. And he sits down, and we see he's there to meet Gordon. So Kubrick tells Gordon that the demon gate has been opened, Devil's Gate's been opened, and that a whole bunch of demons have escaped. And Gordon's like, Sam Winchester was there, wasn't he?
That's sad.
In a very convoluted way. He's like, my aunt's uncle's brother's sister monkey's child told me that yes.
What's interesting is that, like, he heard it from a guy who knows Bobby Singer, which suggests that Bobby is really well, like, we kind of know this already, but, like, Bobby's really well established in, like, the hunter community and, like, well respected, which is interesting in then how he's related to the Winchesters, I feel, because I almost think that Bobby makes a bit of, like, almost like a pariah of himself by, you know, interacting with the Winchesters because we don't often see him interacting with other hunters or, like, talking to other hunters, but he is mentioned by them a lot, and I wonder what they say now behind his back, now they know that he is involved with Sam and Dean.
We sort of get an answer to that, because first of all, Kubrick only says the last name Singer, and then Gordon comes in and says Bobby's edge isn't what it used to be. Sam could have him believing anything by now.
Right.
I'm going, that's his boys.
You're always going to believe your child over some stranger.
Exactly. I think as well, like, if the guy here that's talking to Gordon is called Kubrick, that must be like a Stanley Kubrick reference, surely.
Absolutely. In an episode that's already named after, like, a classic genre-bending Western noir film. Ben Edlund slips a lot of old film references into everything, but especially this episode.
Yeah, that's why he's my boy! And, like, Kubrick's not convinced that Sam's got anything to do with the, like, Gates of Hell. He says, like, he checks out and he's just a hunter, but, like, Gordon is like, nah. He's not even human, mate. Yeah, exactly.
Imagine having Sterling Brown in an episode not bothering to have him on the screen for more than 5 minutes.
I know, wasted. So Gordon says at the end here a line which always sticks with me, and it's repeated again at the end of the episode, and he says,
Sam Winchester must die.
Charlie, you said before, it's from, like, John Tucker must die is also the only reference I can think of where this has come from.
Other than just, like, being a mustached, cigar-waving villain tying someone to the tracks in, like, a very old...
Yeah. Maybe it's that kind of... We are merging a whole bunch of genres in this episode, so maybe it's kind of like a little wink and a nod to that kind of era of villainry.
From the days of when serials were actually in a movie theater and you would have to go each week to see the next episode, the term cliffhanger literally comes from the show ending when someone was hanging by a cliff so that the children would come back the next week and watch the next episode.
It has that feel, I think, of, like, cartoon villain, definitely. It just sticks out to me because he says it so pointedly, and, like, he says it again at the end, like, literally, like, it's so ridiculous.
It's so out of character too. Like, his scenes in this episode feel very like Gordon's had, like, a bad day and it's just like, I need a laugh, so I'm gonna call Kubrick.
Convince him the Antichrist is here.
This is a good point, actually, because how many other hunters do you think Gordon's contacted before Kubrick? Because Kubrick seems a bit like bumbly, maybe like bottom of the barrel kind of people you would call in a situation.
How many friends does Gordon even have, though?
That's true.
That's true. Because he also, I mean, Gordon also has a reputation. Because the other hunter that later comes into this episode, he doesn't think that the information that Kubrick has checks out. So, which came from Gordon.
Yeah.
And we know in the introduction, in the recap, Ellen's line is like, you can't trust him. He's a good hunter, but you can't trust him. You know, the same way that everybody talks about the Winchesters, they talk about Gordon. So I'm sure he's burned a lot of bridges and, like, he's a bit of a fanatic in a way. He loves to kill.
He does. I think it's just showing how hunters don't really trust each other at all. Yeah. Like, there doesn't seem to be a brotherhood there, which maybe makes the Winchesters the exception to that. because they're obviously literal brothers, but there is also like a brotherhood there as in the other sense.
So now we're doing, again, because we're going back and we've already recorded other episodes, this is now a common theme of how they open episodes, which is Dean driving recklessly.
Yes.
While they're having a conversation.
An argument.
An argument. Yeah, that's true. It's not a conversation, it's an argument.
And he would put himself at risk. He would not put Sam at risk.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think he's so, especially with this conversation, I think he's so annoyed about what Sam did that he's not really thinking about it. He's just like, I need to angry drive.
Yeah, I'm an angry driver. I get it.
Talking to demons, I will crash this car.
Because demon, that's why. I mean, the second you find out this Ruby chick is a demon, you go for the holy water. You don't chat.
No one was chatting, Dean.
Oh yeah? Then why didn't you send her ass back to hell?
Because she said she might be able to help us out.
So clearly Sam has told Dean all about Ruby. I mean, it makes sense that he would, because there is no trust there between Sam and Ruby, although there's a little bit because he didn't kill her. You know,
only because he knows he can get something out of it.
The relationship between them at the moment is very like transactional. Sam tells Dean here that, and that's actually some, okay, the first thing is there's actually some communication between them in this, and they're not keeping as many secrets they're still keeping secrets, but Sam is actually telling Dean that Ruby is offering to get him out of the Crossroads deal. Dean's face when Sam tells him that is very interesting. It's kind of a little bit hopeful maybe, but mostly like, I think he's annoyed maybe that Sam's still looking into this, because he has told him already that if they try and get him out of the Crossroads deal, that Sam will die.
Jensen does this face when Dean's processing information, and once I've seen it, I now can't unsee it. his eyes just like dart back and forth really quickly.
Yes.
Although I saw a clip of him at a convention and he did it too, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's not Dean.
What's wrong with you, huh? She's lying. You gotta know that, don't you? She knows what your weakness is. It's me.
Oh, that line! Oh, that line! Like, how many times the supernatural is like, you're my weakness used against people? Okay, themes of the show, I'm going back through them. It's found family, you know, breaking out the narrative. And then I would say I'm going to add a third one to this. Relationships as weakness. Because it's really true. Like, it's used against them so often. I guess at least Dean's self-aware. Like...
But he's self-aware when he wants to be.
Yes.
Like, it's not all the time. Like, this is season 3 and he's aware of it. But I feel like as we go on, that's not true. It's fine. We'll be fine. What are you talking about?
I don't know if they say that about Sam and Dean once Castiel comes in, or is it just they only refer to Castiel and Dean that way from then on?
That'll be an interesting one to pick up, I think, because...
Thinking about season 12 especially.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. Like, I think there becomes a point, and people are definitely going to disagree with me on this. There's definitely a point where Sam and Dean are no longer each other's weaknesses, I feel. And there's other people in their lives that are that for them.
I don't know. I feel like just the focus gets switched because it's always been Sam and Dean. They had to change it because it just becomes too repetitive.
Yeah. So
I think if push came to shove, they could use each other as a weakness still, even in later seasons, but because they have other characters, they'd rather use those because, emotional manipulation.
That's true.
They don't stop making dumb decisions on behalf of the other one.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm thinking specifically of like 15-19 for some reason, the point where they get to, where they're talking to Chuck and they're like, fine, we'll Cain and Abel this. We'll do it if you bring everyone back, including Cass.
Because he has a bigger weakness.
Right? I guess you can fold that into saving the whole world, but it was very clearly said. What's interesting is that like through all that season 15 and Chuck trying to get them to, well, essentially for Dean to kill Sam, it never really works because that's not his biggest fear anymore, if that makes sense. That they'll have to take each other out.
Dean follows this up by asking if Sam's feeling okay, and though it hasn't been seen on screen, Sam has this angry reaction of like, why are you always asking me that?
So this is the other big sort of storyline of the season is like, was Sam brought back wrong? So clearly Dean is constantly keeping an eye on him, essentially. to see all these little tics and things that Sam might have that might prove to him that he's brought back in a weird kind of way.
The thing is, I don't think it's that unusual for Sam to take a moment and talk to a demon about something that will help somebody else. I don't think that's unusual.
Also, what Dean like? So he's a little demonic enough that he's going to try to trick you into trusting Ruby, but he's going to answer that question. Be like, you're right.
Yeah,
I'm demonic.
You got me.
You got me.
It's so not unusual for Sam to take time out to talk to a demon. I think it is unusual at this point. I think future Sam we can forgive more, but I think there hasn't been a point yet where we've really seen him. I don't know though. I guess Meg a little bit, was maybe a bit more lenient with her, but he really hates Sam really hates demons at this point.
In terms of demons being a monster, like he with bloodlust, the vampires talk to him for just a little bit and he's already convinced that they're good people. He's been saved by Ruby already. Yeah. There's already sort of that in her favor.
Yeah, I can see that for Sam, but I do think that for him demons are a special case just because it's so closely tied to like Yellow Eyes and everything. I feel like he's sometimes more ruthless with them.
So Sam's been sympathetic so far to a vampire and maybe a little bit Ruby and a werewolf. Has he ever been sympathetic like that to a monster that was not a beautiful woman?
He was also sympathetic to the ghost in Roadkill. And again, she's a beautiful woman. So yeah, no, I think you're right on that one.
So maybe you're right. To be sympathetic to the Winchesters, you just have to be incredibly good looking. In classic supernatural fashion, as Annabelle always says,
yep,
they're having a serious conversation, so somehow a phone rings.
But this time is different because it's not either of their phones. So, you know, that they're patting themselves down, which, Dean, you're driving. Turn that phone off. They realize, check the glove compartment, it's Dad's. Dean says, I keep it charged for any of Dad's old contacts, which... So the word got out that the Devil's Gate's open.
Yeah. But
the word hasn't got out that, probably one of the more famous hunters, John Winchester, has been dead for, a year.
Is he?
Dead?
No. Is he more famous? Would people know him?
I feel like a lot of people know, when you say, I do feel like he is. I mean, it's kind of implied.
Because, Ellen knows John, Bobby knows John, Gordon knows John. All the hunters they come into contact with have known John, including the guy from Folsom Prison Blues was a contact of John's. Yeah, they always, whenever they do interact with someone from the hunter community, they seem to be in some way tied to John. I guess this phone's for, I want to say civilians. That's how they refer to them in the show.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think you're right.
Who maybe wouldn't know about the Hellgate and John being dead. Although that is actually common knowledge because Hendrickson knows John's dead.
How many times have they left their phone number with someone in case a monster came back or in case a ghost came back?
I think it's implied they do it a lot, right?
Right.
We don't physically see them hand a card over. I love the idea they have business cards.
But they do when they're pretending to be FBI.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
There's sort of a retcon that happens whenever they go back in time or do a flashback that the hunters were always posing as FBI agents and cops, but Sam introduces it in the pilot. But sort of retcon that John was doing that too, without a suit.
It's interesting. I don't know. It is interesting that Dean still has John's phone. You'd think it would be one of those things that he would throw out in a fit of rage, when your face.
I don't think so. I think at this point, he's still not quite over John's decisions and everything. I mean, especially in this episode when we get there.
Is he still wearing the jacket?
Yeah, not in this episode.
If he's wearing the jacket, he's not throwing out the cell phone out of rage, right?
I'm glad that Sam answered the phone in this scene because I don't think I could deal with Dean pretending to be John on the phone at this point in my life.
Oh. God, that would be horrible. Yeah.
Right?
So, speaking of that phone call, Dean's always leaving rock names, but apparently John's leaving names relating to the supernatural because the name he gave was Edgar Casey, who is a clairvoyant who claimed that he could see beyond the veil.
Why would you do that? Why would you make such an obvious reference?
I would so make a joke like that if I
think
had to
that's-
make a fake name, like.
Well,
That's so much more covert, though, than like, "Hi, I'm Agent Zeppelin."
So the phone call's from a storage facility.
Yeah.
That's been broken into. Sam just says, no, just close it up. We'll go and sort it out. When we find out what's in the storage place, and obviously being John, there's going to be supernatural things in there.
Mhm.
So why would you have a clairvoyant's name attached to it? You're just advertising at that point, surely.
Let's be honest, John didn't come up with these names. Amy's boy did.
My boy. Yeah, he
This is
did.
true, yeah.
But it's like Sam. I mean, they do definitely drop this later on because Sam starts to do the rock names alongside Dean as well, so they can have like two from the same band or whatever. But when we first start Supernatural, Sam, all his aliases are serial killers, and they're wanted by the FBI, and he's still using serial killer names as
So
his alias.
John must have been like, okay, you need to choose a theme, and that's your theme too, for all your fake IDs.
Yeah.
So we know whose it belongs to.
Yeah.
It makes sense as well because if you stick with a theme and then if you like move away from that theme, maybe someone would know what was up. Like I'm thinking of The Usual Suspects, where they write a note to each other and it's from The Great Escape rather than like rock aliases or whatever. It's all
They have
secret
their
code.
brother code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the last episode we did together, Dean was able to guess Sam's password for his cell phone because it was like relating to, I don't remember if it was Star Trek or something like that.
I can't remember.
And he guessed it out of thin air.
So we find out that this storage locker is actually outside of Buffalo. They are going to go on their way.
So meanwhile, we see Kubrick and he's with a guy who is called Creedy and they are inside Kubrick's RV. And they're kind of talking about finding Sam. And as you said previously, like Creedy's kind of a bit disbelieving of Sam being in any way supernatural. He's heard that Gordon's good. He doesn't really know much about him. Kubrick is more on Gordon's like, he's amazing. He saved my life. Which, to be fair, if he saved your life, I can kind of see that. We kind of find out here as well that like Kubrick is in some way religious. I say in some way because like he has.
It's
some
not
really,
in the normal way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dubious like. What do I want to call it?
Paraphernalia. He has like tchotchkes. Like it's not anything that would donate to the church. It's very showy. It's not like a separate personal faith. It's bumper stickers and random things you have on shelves.
It's what I think of as like American Christianity. Like you don't really see it in Europe. Like
Maybe
that kind
evangelical.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
This has this line and it completely cracked me up of like, don't play with my Jesus. It's like very seriously. But it took me these like 3 watch throughs to realize that maybe Creedy is named after Peter Creedy from V for Vendetta.
Oh, maybe.
Who is the head of the Fingermen. And apparently it's now on the #1 definition on Urban Dictionary is a person who touches other people's things.
I mentioned this before in the first recording. I have to say it again because it's something that really does bug me. Is when like someone comes into your home and then just starts going through your things. It's making me anxious watching you go through someone else's stuff.
I love that it makes you so mad.
And I don't know why.
Don't play with my Jesus.
That "don't play with my Jesus" line is the start when you realize that this episode is going to be funny.
You
Yeah.
make a point because I don't know if I've ever seen this episode and not known ahead of time that it's going to be ridiculous. But if I did, it was the first time, and that was like a decade ago. But I think my friend probably went, "Oh, you have to watch this one. There's like this line about a shoe."
We cut from Kubrick and Creedy, and we see Sam and Dean in an elevator going to a storage unit. Now, I don't know what type of storage unit has an elevator. That's so weird to me. Why is it underground? It seems sketchy as anything. It's weird to me, but I'm just going to go with it. They clearly wanted it to be atmospheric, and it is. Dean, while they're writing down in this, just says like...
His dad, you know, him and his secrets. Spend all this time with the guy, it's like we barely even know the man.
Well, we're about to learn something.
I really think this is indicative of their relationship. How much time has Dean spent with John, and how many secrets has he kept from him? And it must weigh on his mind. Like, what else has he not told me? I mean, he's dead now, so he can't tell Dean anything else. But there must be other things.
So how long do you think Dean was with John consistently? Like, at what point did John be like, okay, you go hunt by yourself? I want to say, like, they started to separate when Sam left.
See, I don't know, because in the previous episode he makes a reference to going on Sam and John had gone to Florida, so he had gone to do something else by himself. That's when he was spending the weekend with Lisa. I feel like John often pushed Dean out to, like, punish him. So I think they were consistently kind of supposed to be together until John disappeared and then he went and found Sam. I think there were probably about, like, periods of time when they weren't together because John had left him somewhere.
So, I mean, the reason why I ask is because obviously the Impala's trunk in pilot is very much Dean's. Like, yes. It's a mess. Like, and then when we see John's car, it's pimped out. Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, they seem to be very good mechanics, so they could probably do it quite quickly.
Yeah,
Dean does.
But I do feel like it would take time to, like, cultivate that. But I can't imagine Dean being in the Impala and not driving it.
I know. Right, it feels wrong, yeah.
But no, he said that, and I was thinking that it was more about Dean than it was about Sam, because Sam went away for 4 years, and until John split off to look for the demon, I thought about that as time that Dean was stuck alone with his father. But John was all Dean has, and still he was keeping these major secrets, and we know the biggest secret was everything to do with Sam, everything to do with the demon. Mm-hmm. We also find out later that this isn't something that happened just since they separated. Like, John has had this locker or something like it since they were children.
Yeah.
He's had it the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And even just imagine, like, not telling them that they could own something that didn't fit in the back seat of their car. Like, just having off-season clothing.
Yeah.
Like, anything dear to you beyond one backpack's worth of clothes your entire life. Of course it made sense for them to have a locker, but somehow he's never been to one of the lockers with the boys.
Yeah.
It's almost selfish.
Well, this is John we're talking about, so...
I know. Yeah, it's not even
so it's just selfish.
Yeah. It's not. So they open up the locker, they see a demon trap on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Again, coming back to the episode that we recorded, this bugged me a considerable amount, because we're planting knowledge into John's head that he may not have actually had.
Yeah. Or
he didn't want to share, or what have you. Which I know John doesn't like to share information because
of John,
plot, I guess.
Control issues.
Yeah. But I feel like telling your sons how to trap a demon is pretty important, especially if you're going to go up against one, and, like, the fact that they never use it. Like, while John was on screen.
Well, Bobby taught them the demon's trap, or devil's trap.
Right. I don't think John put this there. We sort of find out later that someone helped him with this locker.
Yeah, but he would still know what it... Well, maybe they came in after the fact and put it there. That's actually a possibility.
I was thinking about that too.
It is a weird thing, though, because if you actually stop and think about it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Not just that, but, like, okay, so even if someone helped him with this, why would they not share that knowledge with John? There is a weird disconnect there between lore that happens at this point, because it goes from, you know, Sam and Dean having to find everything out from Bobby, who's like an established demon hunter and, like, seems to have knowledge that nobody else has, to, oh, actually, most hunters are aware of demons and know how to stop and trap them. Like, think of Isaac and Tamara. They were, like, well versed in demon hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that they made a shift here when they knew they were going to be focusing on demons more, to, like, oh, well, actually everyone has, like, a basic knowledge of them.
It also just feels like the bigger one of, through all of season 1, they're looking for John and they don't reach out to Bobby.
Yeah.
Even though Bobby sort of phrased them, because he hadn't been written yet, and it's all a retcon.
Yeah. Of course.
I'm sorry.
Of course, like, logically, we all know that that's the reason why, like, none of this stuff is put out there, but I can still get annoyed at it. Don't ruin my fun.
I'm here with
Charlie.
you. I'm here with you. Don't worry.
Put in an explainer. The show wanted to teach us what an explainer was, so use it. Like,
And
honestly,
they use it in a couple of scenes.
yeah, they do.
Plenty.
As they kind of venture further inside, Dean finds sort of a trophy that he reads and says, "Oh, it's from 1995," and Sam takes it from him.
1995.
No way. That's my division championship soccer trophy. I can't believe he kept this.
It is probably the closest you ever came to being a boy. Oh, wow. It's my first sawed-off. I made it myself. 6th grade.
He kind of laughs that like John still has this and like it's super cute. And it's like when you tell someone a story and you're like, this is a really funny story, and then you kind of look at their face and it's like horrified. Right?
Yeah.
I had to work this out because I'm insane. So it's a 1995 division champ soccer trophy.
Yes.
First of all, Dean turns around and says it's the closest he's ever come to being a boy because he hasn't found the saw-off yet, and he's like hurt there. Like, Dad kept your trophy. He loves you more than me, and you're the favorite. And then he finds the sawed-off.
Yeah.
But also, so Sam was 12 when he got that, and he was at 12 on a soccer league long enough to win a championship.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the saw-off was from 6th grade, so he's 11 or 12. So Bette Edlund made them like around the same age that they made these artifacts.
Horrific.
And only one of these boys got to have a childhood, and we're allowed to be mad about it.
Sam didn't get into hunting until well late.
Yeah.
And this proves it.
He was very much protected from it, and you can see it here. And it also really highlights to me the things that John, is proud of, I guess, in his sons. It's almost like Sam's normality and Dean's usefulness as a hunter.
Oh, don't say that. I'm going to cry. That's just like went straight through my heart.
I'm so sorry.
But he didn't even let them know about the locker. He didn't even let them feel as loved, even as little as he loved them.
Yeah.
And so he was going here alone, I guess only when he was on hunts alone, when Sam and Dean were like waiting for him in a hotel room with not enough money and not enough food and going hungry.
And why didn't Dean notice that his first shotgun's gone?
Look, I can make up a whole sad reason for that if you don't want it. Like, again.
He never got to keep anything that didn't fit in a single bag.
Exactly. You have to give things up when you're living on the road, and that was
because he wouldn't tell his sons about having a locker.
Or it got traded in, like John taught him how to make the next one, and as he got older, and that, that one lost its usefulness because it wasn't as good as, it's his first one, so not as good, and anyway.
What if, okay, some of the items in here were not put in there by John?
Oh, Annabelle.
How did you make
Bobby,
that worse?
Bobby was in the locker.
Yeah.
So we know that Bobby's been in this locker. We assume that Bobby's been in this locker.
Here, I'm going to make you think your father loves you.
Well, this is it. No,
yeah, exactly.
More so that these were items that John was going to discard, and Bobby was like, no, you'll regret discarding these, so I'll put them in the storage locker for you.
So I just keep going back in my head, though, to that famous scene where Bobby says, no, we're not going to shoot today. I'm going to teach you how to catch a ball.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Sam got to be on a soccer team so long that he won a championship.
Oh, it's enough to be real mad about, I feel. Like, Dean deserved better, and just like, generally, the whole series, generally. Anyway.
So as they're exploring, after they've, reminisced for a moment, they start to look further into the storage locker, and there's like all this kind of weaponry around. There's a landmine, and I was trying to think, like, do you think it's rigged with like holy water or something?
No, I think it's a landmine.
You just think it's a landmine? Because
saved it from when he was a Marine. Get it from Army,
maybe.
Navy. There's grenades. But Also, he never comes back to use any of this stuff, apparently.
Right? Like, what? Anyway.
You would want the landmine. Just
Yes!
Don't put it in the Impala.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Let's not take from the Impala. When the Impala's a rocket, the landmine might go off, so be careful.
Yeah. So, and he's looking around and he's like, what? Because he's also, when they're walking in, they see a tripwire and it's being triggered because there's blood on the floor, and they say that the person got tagged / shot at.
Mm-hmm.
What were they looking for? And Sam turns around and he sees all these boxes with marks on it. And we get the explainer that they're curse boxes and they hold cursed objects.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that Sam calls this place a toxic waste dump, a supernatural one, but their childhood things are there.
Oh, Annabelle.
I like you.
Why would you say that?
Which is why I don't think John put those things in there.
I'm starting to agree with you, actually, in some ways.
Actually, was there anything of John's there that wasn't a weapon?
No, nothing of John's I couldn't see there.
And also, everything had a place.
Mm.
It was all like nicely put away. The weapons were all
like John's weapons in his trunk.
Right, and then there's just this
like a Marine would
statue there, and like the shotgun that's just sort of on the side. It's not hung up.
Bobby went in there. He set up the devil's trap. He set up the curse boxes, and he just left those things. And John never came back in.
Yeah,
and didn't even know they were there.
I hate this.
Thrown them out.
I hate this. It's true. I hate this.
As they're looking through all the shelves, they notice that one box is missing.
Ridiculous that there's just a perfect outline because they would drag the box forward.
You wouldn't pick it.
Oh, yeah, that's
you
true.
would drag it. That's good manual handling too. You should bring it closer to your body first before moving it away.
Okay,
Usha. I love that we both went in the same direction.
One thing you don't know about me is that, and you don't know this either, Annabelle, my mum's nickname for me is Safety Girl. I really like the cut because they kind of like look at this curse box and are like, well, hope they don't look inside. And then it immediately cuts to the two guys like, let's open the box. And I love that. I love that kind of stupid humor. The two guys, they look very similar, these two guys, so I do get them confused. But one's called Wayne and one's called Grossman. I think Wayne has lighter hair. That's how I distinguish them.
Yes.
Wayne was shot. How could you confuse the two?
One's shot and blonde, and the other one's bald and entire.
Okay, Wayne got
it's
shot.
Fine.
I love that.
The first two times I watched this episode, I didn't bother learning anybody's name.
So
we also have an answer now from something that I question I asked the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
The first time around, I asked if you only touch the chain, are you still cursed? And Wayne only picks up the rabbit's foot by the chain, and he's cursed. And there's this big whoosh, ominous wind sound effect noise, so you know it's cursed.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, they find the rabbit's foot. I mean, we all know it was going there, and I like the whoosh sound. It always reminds me of Star Trek. So there's an episode of Star Trek called The Naked Time. Don't ask me why it's called that. It's not because there's anyone is naked in it. And it's a virus on the ship that is spread by touch. And every time someone touches someone else, it makes like this like noise. And it's the same thing still being done like 50, 60 years later.
Well, how else are you supposed to know you've been affected by a thing?
Also,
We're too dumb to know.
Also, this is a real trope-filled, like obvious trope-filled episode.
Oh, yeah.
Bedland is playing homage. So Wayne's being a touch dramatic. He keeps talking about how he's bleeding to death and he's dying and he's like walking around. He's fine. I've had more blood from a nosebleed, Wayne.
So yeah, they're going back and forth and talking about like, we should open it. We don't want to let that stuck-up woman have whatever in this box. Grossman opens the box and Wayne, Charlie said, picks up the rabbit's foot by the chain. And as they're arguing, there's a knock at the door and it's their neighbor. And I didn't notice this the first time, but he has a patch on his vest that's a rabbit with a lightning bolt through it.
What? That's wild. I didn't see that.
He then he tells Wayne that he used to be an army medic, and he says, "Looks to me like it's your lucky day."
Ooh, ooh.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And
Sam and Dina followed in the car.
Yeah.
yes. I mean, I guess they had to show like how they got there. I feel like with Robert Singer episodes, they don't have enough material, so they like pad it in with some stuff, and this is one of them because this is really. I mean, it kind of explains how they found them, but at the same time, it feels really unnecessary because it's what, 5 lines?
Last 3 digits, 880.
Yep, that's it.
Should have blacked out their plates before they parked in front of the security camera.
Look, if it wasn't in there, we'd be complaining that how did they find them? So
That's true.
look, can't win either way. Sorry,
Well,
Robert Singer.
I don't know though, because there's been other times when they've just, I don't know.
They could have done an explainer once they go into the apartment, and the guys would be like, "How did you find us?" He's like, "You
That would have
stupid
been better.
guys, you left your license plate on a security camera."
You're right, that would have been better.
Yeah.
Rewriting Supernatural.
And
Again.
isn't that what at least 100,000 people have done?
Surely. Oh,
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
But, okay, so let's say that you don't know that a rabbit's foot's supposedly lucky, and we're still peeling back the layers of the onions of this episode. So now they show Wayne and Grossman playing hands of poker, and it's his second royal flush in 8 hands.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who's never played poker, kind of knows a little bit from like movie references, how are you supposed to know that getting 2 royal flushes in 8 hands is like really lucky? Like that could just be like average, surely.
Maybe the men who write Supernatural think that everyone knows what they consider to be basic knowledge, and they put up explainers for things that everybody else knows, but they feel the need to explain because it's not their base knowledge.
A curse box is, very specific to
A box with a curse thing.
always like the occult. So
Yeah.
I think they're still trying to aim this at men. So
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how many men know much about the occult that are watching this show for like pow pow boom boom.
Whereas, like, every single teenage girl ever has gone through a stage where at least thought maybe that they were a witch. That's true. Right? That's
Right.
just true.
The
So-
secret that men don't know about us.
Oh no, I gave it away. I gave it away.
That's okay.
Yeah, so they're starting to believe this rabbit's foot then, I guess, with the poker. When suddenly Sam and Dean burst in, shouting like, "Freeze, freeze, freeze!" I originally thought they were shouting police when they came in, but I listened to it again and they are just shouting freeze. They're not pretending to be cops. As they come in, they kind of look around for the box, and like Sam notices like they've already opened it. They've done it. They've opened the box. The box is open. So Dean kind of pushes Wayne against the wall and questions him about the rabbit's foot. But like as he kind of turns around to like look behind him at where it might be, the guy kind of pushes him slightly, and he just like goes down. He just goes down. They kind of start. This is where they start the music. And like, I can't explain the music to you. I will cut it.
What is that thing?
But it's like the supernatural, dumb stuff is happening.
It's the slapstick music.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And this scene is so slapstick. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Like people go up, they get down, guns are thrown across the room, people are
Bullets
like
are
pushing into
ricocheting.
things. Yeah, ricochet everywhere. My absolute favourite one is Dean gets up again and then gets hit with a gun. But he goes down in such a comedic fashion because there's a pause. It's the pause that does it, right? It's like...
It's the pause and then that like eye roll and then the fall.
Yes,
like it's very much like the Three Stooges.
He gets smacked in the face with his own gun.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
wow.
there's this cartoonish wham sound. And then Dean makes this like Jerry Lewis sound, who is referenced later in the episode. He's like, "Huh!" And he just falls back.
I love the slapstick stuff. They're really good at it, actually.
Mhm.
I don't feel like Jared and Jensen get enough credit for how comedic they are sometimes, actually.
Mhm.
Like, oh yeah, you can do your single man tier all you want. I think it takes a real pro to fall over.
That's very right. But there's a couple of like moments in this fight that kind of get carried on for bits later on in this episode. In the beginning, where the bullet ricochets and all this stuff, Sam bumps into Dean, like knocks him into the table,
Yeah.
and Sam apologizes to him, like in the middle of this fight. He just says
Right.
sorry.
I love that so much. Because that's so it's so perfectly realistic though, because you definitely would say you would apologize.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it.
Before we get too far away, there's the first moment where they show the rabbit's foot
Mhm.
because it's Dean's point of view and it's the first time he's seeing it. And Annabelle has infected my mind because I can't watch moments like that now without hearing her voice in my head go, Dean's gonna touch it.
So it gets to the point in this fight, Sam is getting strangled by Grossman, and he's kind of grabbing out, and he does notice the rabbit's foot. He looks at it before he grabs it, because I was questioning that. I think we were questioning this last episode. Like, did he know what he was grabbing? And yes, he purposely gets it.
It bothers me because he doesn't know what it does yet, right? And it's not like something big he would smack Grossman over the head with, so why did he pick it up?
I do think Sam's like realised there's something weird going on here that is connected to it that seems to be giving them the upper hand in this fight in some way. So he's taking a weird chance. I mean, we ribbed Dean for touching the cursed objects, but I mean Sam
Does it knowingly.
Dean! I got it.
He manages to push Grossman off, and he goes like way farther than he should go with the push like that. And Wayne sort of runs up to Sam and pulls a gun on him. And so it all kind of slows down because now Sam's got a gun on him. But when Wayne pulls the trigger, it doesn't go off. And it's Dean's gun that he's firing too. So like Dean looks surprised.
Yeah.
They manage to like push this guy back again, and the gun goes flying and somehow miraculously lands in Sam's hand. And it's definitely not right. Okay, first things first. The person who catches the gun, I don't think, is Jared, because it's just his arm. And then you can clearly see the camera shot that they have done, where he's just holding his arm off screen, clearly has the gun in it, and he pulls it back in screen, like, I got it!
You're completely right. I was wondering how many times they had to film that, but they might have just given up and used someone else's hand.
I think they used someone else's hand.
probably
This
did.
is very the labyrinth with the crystal globes
Mhm.
moment. I just love the way it's done, because to me it's really obvious, but like it does also look good.
That was a lucky break. Is that a rabbit's foot?
There's a point in the episode where Sam is just along for the ride. Because
Yes.
like up to this point he's been arguing with Dean, they've been doing the case, he's all been very like on board and very present, and then as soon as he kind of gets the rabbit's foot, it's like Sam is just checked out, and he's like, do you know what, whatever happens
Right. It's an episode. It's yet another episode where something big is happening to Sam, but the episode is about Dean.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's in this cut that Dean starts to figure out that maybe the rabbit's foot is actually lucky,
Yes.
because he goes off and buys scratch-off tickets at a convenience store. Sam is not on board yet.
Does it become lucky as soon as Sam touches it, or
Yes.
not? In my mind, Dean buying the tickets nulls the fact that Sam would win.
Okay, so alright, here we go. I'm a mathematician. No, I think, because I was thinking about this as well, I also had the same thought as you. It's like, Dean buys these tickets, how is Sam's luck affecting this? But it needs to be Sam who scratches them off. It's a weird like ripple effect that's happening, because we do see it later when he, like the bad luck, that the ripple effect affects a wide area.
Mm-hmm.
Even things that had already happened.
Even things that have already happened. So what it's obviously like what luck seems to do is change the probability of things happening. So there were probably, in my mind, this is how this would work, there would already be winning tickets in that store. The probability of the cashier then handing them to Dean was increased by Sam's luck. So that's why he ended up with the winning ones.
And also, he doesn't. So you can see on the front of the tickets that the maximum amount is like 15,000,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
the first ticket he gets is he wins 1200.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's not that he. Maybe if Sam was the one who bought them, he would continually get the like higher paying tickets, especially at the end of this episode, like how much they're up.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it's not just... The thing is, luck is a weird thing in Supernatural, and
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later on or at the end of
Oh,
the
yes.
episode. There's a there's a difference between the luck that they have naturally with their plot armor and the luck that is here. And the luck that is here does seem to be probability based rather than just being lucky. And I don't know, I know people are like, is there a distinction between that? I think there is. I think this just increases the probability of things happening. So they're in a Biggersons as well. This is the first time we've seen Biggersons in the series. And it has a very, I don't know, it has I have a warm place in my heart for Biggersons because of, I guess, Cass's storyline. And there's a little season 7 that's set in Biggersons too. They're in the parking lot of Biggersons when they buy the raffle tickets. Yeah, it's nice to see it actually, that like, I don't know. It made me happy that it's in season 3. I just enjoyed it.
We then cut back to Wayne and Grossman's apartment.
And we've cut here off of Sam saying it has to be cursed or Dad wouldn't have locked it up. And then they cut to this scene, which I still can't watch.
It takes a turn to, this very fun episode, or possibly fun episode, to Final Destination. It's very, you pointing out that it's probability based. This whole scene, feel like you can definitely see it. Grossman wakes up and he kicks this beer bottle that strategically rolls a little bit and stops. Just like, I realized watching it again, the reason why it's so unsettling is because it's not like a gradual stop, it's just a stop. Yeah. The sink, and it starts like pulling out, I'm assuming still dirty dishes because it's in the sink, because he hasn't washed it. He just, anyway, puts them on a drying rack, and he has like this, I want to say like a turkey fork. I don't know, like a
turkey fork,
a barbecue fork, a meat fork,
a
trident. A mini trident.
It doesn't have 3 prongs, it has 2.
No, I'm just kidding around.
A hydrant.
A hydrant, yes. We'll go with that.
Everything's bi and supernatural.
Okay, so I'm looking at the transcript, and it's called a large barbecue carving fork. There you go.
Fine. Not a
fan wrote that, right?
And it's pointing up and towards him. Like
why?
Out towards.
Why would you put a fork like that?
And even the whole time he's washing his hands, it's like right there in the shot, just off screen.
Chekhov's barbecue fork.
Grossman's starting to come round, and as Wayne walks out of the kitchen, he slips on the beer bottle and falls backwards onto the hydrant.
Normally when I watch the list, because this one was like, you can so see it coming, like you know exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. It's like, you know it's going to happen, so you kind of cringe away from it. And I was like, look, I'm going to watch it this time, this episode. I'm actually going to watch the fork go through his head. And I watched it, and it was still really gross.
Yeah,
Thank you for the news update. I actually skipped it because with the power of Netflix, I can just sort of skip ahead 30 seconds. And I skipped when it went in. It's the buildup that bothers me. But then I skipped right to it sticking out his mouth. And for some reason with that, I was fine.
I want to know, and then maybe someone who's listening can answer this. Is there a name for the filming, like, or directorial trope, or whatever it's called, where you see something in frame that you're like, oh, someone's going to die on that? Like the fork, the rebar. Yeah, the foreshadowing. But it's not just foreshadowing. It's like...
It's not just foreshadowing. It's not just dramatic irony.
You just, you see it and you're like, someone's definitely going on that.
I was going to say, there's a whole colour theory that people have studied. Mm-hmm. So I'm fairly certain there's the book that I'm thinking of is, I think it's called Sea Purple and Someone's Gonna Die. Mm-hmm. So there must be a name for it.
I want to know. I'm going to look it up and try and find it for the next episode that we record together so I can tell everyone. But I want to know what it is because they use it a lot in Supernatural, like a lot. So
we're still outside the Biggersons, and Dean is going through the scratch cards and like on the in the background as Sam is talking with Bobby. Sam's like asking Bobby about the storage place, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I knew about it. I built this curse boxes," like as if it's nothing. So I do wonder if he's surprised that they don't know about it.
I do. I think Bobby's surprised they don't know about it.
Because Judge John, Bobby. I'm here with you.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I mean, he even calls them out on their stupidity because he's like, "You touched it. You touched the thing that was in the curse box. Like, it's in a curse box for a reason." Like, Bobby does think they are idiots.
It's a hell of a luck charm.
It's not a luck charm. It's a curse. She made it to kill people, Sam.
See, you touch it, you own it. You own it, sure, you get a run of good luck to beat the devil. But you lose it, that luck turns. It
turn so bad that you're dead inside a week.
Well, so I won't lose it, Bobby.
Everybody loses it.
Sam's talking to Bobby and just casually finds a gold watch under a newspaper, like a perfectly shiny gold watch.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah.
And Dean mouths like, awesome, his thumbs up. And Bobby actually calls it a run of good luck to beat the devil.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, but that would have been useful.
Yeah.
Like, that probably would have worked just against Lucifer or Lilith.
Maybe.
Like Felix Felicitas, you know, everyone, it drives me crazy. You could have used that against Voldemort instead of to get a date.
Well, as I was watching this the second time, I was like, oh, why didn't they just call the demon right now? See what kind of luck they could do for Dean.
Oh.
Get out of the deal. Annabelle, why? God, why would she not
It's
think of that as
good.
well? Why would Dean not even, like, mention that? It's because it's too light an episode, obviously, but, like,
Yeah.
it would definitely go through his mind. I'll lighten this up. My favourite bit about this scene is Dean doing maths in his head behind Sam. He's counting and doing the carrying over the one in the air, and it's real cute, and I love it very much. I also do math that way, so I feel it.
I do love that the most in the previous episode where he's working out how old Ben is.
Yes.
Yes.
He has that little, like, his eyes go up into his head and he's counting.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, oh no, and he cuts off screen really quickly.
Math face.
Yes. I think we all have it.
I think so, yeah, for sure. I've definitely seen your math face. Oi, oi.
Sam reassures Bobby that he's not going to lose this rabbit's foot. He's going to be fine. And Bobby's like, well, everybody loses it. Like you're not special.
Mm-hmm.
Like you may be the main character, but you're not that special.
So Robert Singer focuses, so we know that Sam has put it in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. This is very important that we follow exactly where he put the rabbit's foot. Sam asks if there's a way to break the curse, and Bobby's like, "Oh, I'll have a look. I have books.
Yeah,
because I'm a library." Dean's like, "Dude, we're up 15 grand," and Sam's like, "Not." His reaction's very little. He's more worried about, I suppose, dying possibly within a week. So I guess that's
Seems fair.
understandable.
Again, very wow about it. I just feel like he's very just chill about this whole episode. I don't know what's going on with Sam. I do love it. This season, Sam is Sam. Sam is recognizably Sam. His personality traits are there that we see all the way through Supernatural. And I love Sam as a character. I do. And I know we don't talk about him enough sometimes, but I do love him. And it's really nice to recognize him here. And the half smile that he does here, just whatever happens, happens. It's just so Sam. I love it so much.
Don't worry, Bobby will find a way to break him. Until then, I say we hit Vegas, pull a little Rain Man. You can be Rain Man.
Look, we just lay low until Bobby calls back, okay?
We go back to Biggerson's, and Sam and Dean enter and ask for a table. The owner hands them, it's like, well, congratulations! And hands them this huge check, and all these alarm goes off like a balloon, and confetti falls down, and it turns out that Sam and Dean are the 1 millionth guest of the Biggerson's restaurant family. So I'm guessing it's the
franchise.
the whole of Biggerson's.
Which they've pre-decided was going to be in this restaurant.
It's like a... Oh, yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, because as you walk in, surely you would have seen all these streamers and balloons, taped to the wall.
net.
You say that, but the demons never see the demon traps on the ceiling.
This is true.
I also, in this, I don't know how many anymore, rewatch, they're walking in, and there's this older couple sitting on the bench waiting for a table, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
This older patron is in the middle of fake talking and sees them and just stares at them with her mouth open, and now I can't unsee it.
Oh my god, I have to go watch that.
I absolutely love the photo that they take for this. It's just iconic. Dean is so happy, and Sam is so upset. His mouth's a full upside down U shape. It's so good.
It's almost like there's a bad smell in the room.
I love that Dean just loves winning. He just loves winning things. I feel like that's a very older sibling trait. I'm just gonna go with that because, look, when you're younger and you have a younger sibling, you're told to always let them win at things, and they're supposed to win at games. If you beat them, then they cry. So to win something yourself is it's a nice feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But John didn't make Dean let Sam win. That was Dean's instigation. He did
Yeah,
that on
I
his
know.
own.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Got it. That's terrible. So they keep flipping back and forth between Biggerson's and the RV.
Mm-hmm.
You get the understanding that Kubrick's gone through his phone book and called everybody to try and find where they are. Creedy's like, okay, time to eat.
Wide menu, good service, homey atmosphere, garlic knots.
So what did they win for being the millionth customer? Is it they eat free in Biggerson's for life, or is it just this one meal?
Yeah.
I think it's just this one, surely.
I don't think so, because like Dean's eating ice cream and he's like, oh, we should always go to towns where there's a Biggerson's. So I feel like they won free food for life. Or because
I was with Amy. I took it to be that they will now eat there for free forever. But regardless, he's eating this giant melted ice cream sundae as if he'd ordered so much food that the ice cream melted by the time he got to it, and you can see an additional empty ice cream dish to the side of him at the same time.
I do love the fact that, like, you get free food and the thing that you want is a ton of ice cream.
I mean, yes.
One of the cheaper things on the menu, mind you.
Yeah, right. Like when you get like a surf and turf or something, because I'm sure that's what they sell there.
He gets brain freeze from the ice cream too. Which I
Right.
think the plot armor would help him with. He's like, ow.
Dean has his brain freeze, and we see a waitress's behind just walk into the center of the shot because it's what you're supposed to pay attention to, says Robert Singer.
Yes. Again, we are stupid human beings. We do not know that this is important, so we
see
must
a
put
woman,
her.
look at butt.
How else would you know it was a woman?
Another thing, though, how could they not tell that that was a wig?
Thank you.
Was she trying to hide her identity and nobody was like questioning it?
Look, there's a reason she throws it in the trash when she's done.
That's
You know,
true.
it's fine.
That's true.
Because that's also like money he's throwing away there.
Yeah, she has an American accent when she pours for them too.
I didn't really notice that she changed her accent. So, okay, let's go into it. So, a waitress comes up and like pours with coffee for Sam and is like really flirty about it and like overdoes it and it's like, oh no, let me clean you up. Right? And then walks off.
Dude, if you were ever gonna get lucky, shut up.
And as she walks away, they both do the like man lean in. I can't else describe it, just the lean in. Whether
I don't know why it was easier for them to see by leaning in.
I don't know. Like, why are you leaning? Like, what is the lean for?
The only person that kind of makes sense for it is Dean to lean in because the way that the tables are set up, he would be blocked by other people.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Sam, like, he has a clear view of the aisle which he walks down.
So as the waitress walks off, Sam goes to drink his coffee and like spills it all over himself. Stands up and just like completely takes out this waitress. Like she's just gone.
Why that's so
All over everything, flying up into the air.
Yeah.
the server.
Mm-hmm.
He goes down.
It goes down.
So hard. It's so funny. Like when you rewatch it, you just see his arm just like drop. It's great.
So of course Sam stands up and is like,
How was that good?
and the rabbit's foot has gone. And we see the beautiful Lauren Cohen. Oh, yeah, I'm so happy she's in the season. Just like, let's just take a moment, just appreciate the slow-mo of her taking off that like wig and like shaking out her hair. And just
The
just
femme
think about
fatale
that.
moment
Oh, I
of
love
character
it.
introduction.
We see that she wraps the rabbit foot at least in like a towel, so she hasn't touched it herself. Which, to steal something and not touch it, skill.
They figured out that Kripke turned Joe into a sister figure rather than a love interest. They needed a new love interest for Dean.
And they did a much better job.
Yeah, I love Bella. I do love Bella.
At that point, I don't think Joe even shows up in the season at all.
Nope, not at all.
don't think so.
It's not
We're
until
just
season
saying
4.
something.
Mm.
Like he blew the Roadhouse up, and they forced another love interest for both of them. We don't even find out where Ellen and Joe are living.
Ellen was in the end of season 2, and then she's just gone.
They didn't mention her really again. Like, honestly.
OG Ruby gets 1 season, Bella gets 1 season, Joe, Roadhouse, 1 season and gone.
Yep.
Bella
I
had
agree.
so much potential
Mm-hmm.
She did.
as a character, and the way that they eventually develop her story makes literally no sense with this episode, the beginning of her story.
Yeah, I mean, she comes on hard as the like bad guy in this. Nobody likes her in this episode, but by the time we see her end, a lot of people like her.
They're clearly going for this, like, Lara Croft Tomb Raider trope that was very popular at the time. She's doing everything for money. Mm-hmm. Which, again, doesn't make sense with where they go with her story at the last second for no reason.
We're ready to get angry about that. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
So this next bit is some of the funniest Jared acting that we see for some time. When they realize that the rabbit's foot's gone, Sam and Dean run out of the restaurant, and Sam just falls.
Oh, he's gone.
On nothing.
Flops down, and it's amazing. And Dean just, like, stops and kind of does this weird semi-eye roll.
Wow, you suck. So what, now your luck turns bad?
And it is bad, like his knees are all like bloody and scraped. It's just, I love how he goes down. I think this is the thing that Jared does well. He can seem to fall over with both hands still in the air.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Dean says, so now your luck turns bad, and says, I wonder how bad, so that they can have this, like, audience cut to the other group. But the audience has already seen the death of the previous owner of the rabbit's foot.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is because they're not going to try and do, like, a Final Destination death again, because they've already done it. So maybe they're like, oh, this is how we're going to set up how Sam's going to die, because we already know there's hunters looking for him. So let's make the hunters find him, which is exactly what happens here. Creedy shows Kubrick the menu, and, like, they're having this really, like, benign conversation about it. He's talking about, like, a blooming onion. And so they look for the nearest location, and lo and behold, pull up the website. The social media guys at this Biggerson's are on it. The picture of Sam and Dean is already up on the website. Creedy's, like, surprised, and Kubrick sort of looks off at the screen. I don't think I've ever seen somebody do this in real life. The whole, like, very prominently turning your head to look to the sky, obviously being like, oh yes, it must be Jesus, because he almost looks like his painting of Jesus in the background.
He does, yeah.
At this point, before we had spoken about if Kubrick had met God, and I really want to have this conversation again because I think it was hilarious. Because God in this show is not, like, Kubrick would be disappointed, right?
He would be disappointed. I think he's one of these people that sees, like, Jesus as, like, jacked, right?
Chuck walks up, he's just this little dude.
It's just a little dude. I think he'd be disappointed, yeah.
I feel like if Kubrick had met God, he would have asked about Jesus. Like, that would be his first question. He probably wouldn't even care about Chuck. He'd be like, I want to meet Jesus. In my mind, Chuck doesn't even know who Jesus is.
I agree.
Well, he doesn't care about any of his children.
No.
But this is one of, like, 2 or 3 mentions of Jesus in the entire series, which is impressive when it runs for 15 years and becomes about God.
Yeah.
It was Old Testament God, it's not New Testament God.
Very much. I mean, it was this whole series was started by Kripke, who is not Christian.
Mm-hmm. God, Chuck, is very Old Testament God. And I think they made, like, a conscious decision to, like, never mention Jesus in the show. I feel like that was I feel like I've heard that in a interview somewhere, that they made that decision not to do it. But I think that was decided once they decided to bring in angels and, like, Lucifer and stuff, because I think originally they were going to keep it to just hell-based things, and then once they start to bring in heaven, they're like, oh no, maybe we're going to offend some people.
It would have been a completely different tone to create a show. Yeah. Just look at Kubrick, right? Mm-hmm. It would be completely different tone to have a show in the US at this time,
yeah,
that dealt in Jesus. And yet this episode is not kind to Kubrick. It's not kind to that sort of religious movement.
No, it's not actually.
No.
Ben Edlund has something to say.
I mean, but the thing is, what he has to say about it is not offensive to the average person. Like, you can recognize Kubrick's flaws quite clearly in this radical faith, essentially, because it defies all his reasoning and actually makes him very cruel.
Also shows how it's almost like blind faith, right? Because there's a reason for all these things that are happening, and Kubrick can't see that because he's too involved in thinking from down at this point on, because they saw it on the website, that he's on a mission from God. He never actually gets the full story of what's happening here.
And he never wants it. He's just like, I've been told by God that this is the case because I saw a picture on a website.
He's fitting it to his own narrative.
Yeah. We cut back to Wayne and Grossman's apartment, and Grossman is looking at a picture of like them both together. I'm guessing in some sort of Tex-Mex restaurant.
Whenever a character is forlorn and missing someone who's gone to them, we see them in a cowboy hat.
It's so close to a cowboy hat. You know what? That's true, actually. We never see Dean or Sam pouring one out for the boys, and I feel like that's an opportunity wasted because it could have been real funny. Or really sad, actually.
Dean leaves. Crowley looks at a picture of the two of them in a cowboy hat. I'll stop.
Why is it this thing that he has pulled out as the thing that he wants to remember his best friend by? Because they're not best friends. They're at it, surely. I don't know.
Oh, wait. We're queer coding the villains here. Because
Yes.
I feel like this is no. wait, but if it follows the hat theory, this is true.
It's official now. It has a
Or
name.
Charlie's hat theory, that you look at your sometimes, your best friend / lover once they've passed in a
So they both
cowboy
live-
hat.
Were they roommates though?
And they were roommates.
As he's taking a swig of his tequila, Dean and Sam, they walk into the apartment.
I was so prepared to not like this episode the last couple times around, but Sam falling down as they walk into the apartment just completely gets me every single time.
Look, we do kind of say some bad things about Robert Singer, but this scene is perfect.
Yes.
It's perfect because Dean walks in and his face is like shadowed, and he's like, "Tell me about the person who hired you to do this," and it's all very serious. And behind him, Sam just absolutely just goes down, just
Takes
gone,
it.
takes the lamp out, takes everything out, and Dean just stands there, stone faced.
Because she just stole it back from us.
Listen, man, this is silly.
Sam, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
The beginning of Lamp Theory.
It can't possibly be the beginning of
I'm
Lamp
joking.
Theory.
And I love the comedy of it, and yet Dean would take it more seriously because it's Sam's life, because there is a very real possibility at this point that Sam dies from a fall.
He could have got impaled on that lamp. You don't know. He's unlucky.
As long as the barbecue fork has been put away.
I think before we said, why is Dean not concerned about Sam at this point? Because, he really is just you know, are you alive? Yeah, fine. You managed to get back up again. I feel like you made a really good point that they have had to travel here, right? They've had to come here. So how many times has Sam fallen over between there and here?
Can you imagine, because they're obviously, on a third-story apartment, trying to get up the steps. He would have tripped up.
I feel like he trips on his shoelace and falls over. I'm pretty sure it zooms in on his shoelace and he falls over, but I may be imagining that. It must have happened multiple times.
You know what would have been really funny is, they come back to the Impala, go into the pigeon thing, and it's, covered in seagull poop.
No.
Yeah, that
Just,
would have been funny.
For no reason other than, Dean has to now clean the car.
That's true. I'm surprised nothing happened to the Impala in this episode, actually. That's a good point. You just get there, tires are flat. Or
Dean,
Exactly.
Dean drives the entire way from Buffalo to Queens with a car just covered in pigeon poop, and then once he gets the rabbit's foot, it rained for just a second and the car's completely clean.
I mean,
Exactly.
that would have been perfect. They don't...
They off screen. Just he comes back and the car is clean. It comes up later, but Dean does a very good job of playing on Grossman's emotions and convincing him to help.
I can read people. And I get it. You're a thief and a scumbag. That's fine. But you're not a killer. Are you?
This little speech that he gives feels very out of character, though, right? okay, 1940s Dean, like, where's your cigarette while you're saying this?
But it feels so sincere in this moment, but then late in the episode we find out that it was not sincere.
I don't know. It didn't feel sincere. It really felt like he was hamming it up.
I feel like Dean saw this work in a movie and was like, do you know what? I'm going to try this someday. And today was the day.
It's not the first time he gave that speech. It's just the direct quote from the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know that I realized how identical it was to the end of the episode before this watch.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah. It's exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Everyone speaking on your podcast right now has watched this episode a minimum of 3 times recently. So we are here.
We know this.
Missing none.
Back to front. So, I mean, Grossman says, like, no, I'm not a killer, and he clearly gives some information up, although it doesn't show it. Cut to Biggerson's again, the parking lot this time, and Kubrick is leaning against his RV, which has, like, some bumper stickers on. They include... How would Jesus drive? Don't make me come down there from God. Oh, and also Bethlehem or bust. My favourite one is Don't Make Me Come Down There because it's funny if you think Chuck wrote it.
I have a little bit of a tangent here, but related to bumper stickers.
Mm-hmm.
I went to go get food like earlier today. As I was driving, there was this bumper sticker. So I'm in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Everybody's a bit conservative here until they're not. And it's an example. If you're riding my ass, you better be pulling my hair. That is what it said on the bumper sticker.
With that bumper sticker in that location.
And what makes it even funnier, it was on a minivan.
There's some junk in that trunk.
Creedy walks up while Kubrick is waiting with his bumper stickers and has a tinfoil swan of leftovers from Biggerson's, which is ridiculous. That was how they showed a restaurant was fancy in the 90s movies.
The thing also, they sat down, had food, and then Kubrick went off, and then Creedy stayed behind and talked to the people, like...
I guess so, while they were wrapping up his leftovers, and he was like, oh, by the way, did you see, like, a real unhappy tall guy, and, like, you know, a shorter guy with a beat-up car?
Pigeon poo all over it. Did you, by any chance, take a picture of your millionth customer and put it on your website today?
People are surprisingly helpful, and sometimes they shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, why does he know that they didn't pay with a credit card? Like, what? Why was information they volunteered other than to get this man out of their restaurant?
Well, look, maybe they had some hard feelings after Sam injured their waiter.
They didn't pay for their meal, but we had to get their medical insurance because our waiter had to go to the hospital.
Right,
exactly.
Oh, but they can get free food at Biggerson's for life unless they take down their information. Fake information, but they would have given that fake information
that
if they gave them anything.
Later on to get free coffee.
Oh, that's true, as his husband.
Exactly, right? Let's think of a name that Dean would use. Mr. Robert Plant. Also, the luck thing is why they told them, because, like, Kubrick says, well, there's a higher power at work here. I know it now. Because, they found them so easily, essentially, and ultimately, them not finding them here leads them to Sam.
We get some classic lines in these next couple scenes.
Dean actually passes over a wad of gum.
Because it's bright pink. It's gross. Dean's on the phone, about to talk to Bobby, and as Sam walks out, he doesn't see the gum, and he steps on it, and, like, it sticks to his foot. It's really disgusting. He does something that doesn't really make sense. If you know you're bad, you have bad luck, you stand at a grate that looks quite big to try and scrape it off.
So you've never in your life put your foot in a hole where your entire foot could easily get stuck in the grate, and with Sam's luck, an alligator could appear out of the sewer just this one day and take his foot. Dean's on the phone at the same time. It keeps cutting back and forth between Sam and Dean. At this point, Dean says that Sam has lost the foot, and all I can think is, and he's about to lose his shoe.
Dean tries to explain away, like, what happened. He was like, oh, there's this hot chick, she stole it, she's in her mid-20s. I clocked Lauren Cohen as maybe being like the same age as Dean, closer to like 28, 29. Like, I don't think that's...
But to make her a legitimate love interest, she must be at least a few years younger than him,
Oh.
because that's how it works.
Yeah, that's true.
Joe was way young for Dean.
Yeah, way too young. Dean's trying to explain that she only gave him a name, probably an alias, something like Luigi.
I love this reference. This is my favourite reference in this whole episode.
Luigi or something.
Lugosi.
Lugosi.
Lugosi? Lugosi. Oh, crap. It's probably Bella.
Bella Lugosi? That's cute.
Bella Talbot's her real name.
Sam corrects him and says, like, it's Lugosi. And he's like, oh yeah, Lugosi. And I love that he gets it from that, like, Bella Lugosi. Clearly, Bella's using aliases as they do too. I wonder if she also has a theme and she uses, like, classic monster movie references, because Bella Lugosi is one of the actors who originally played Dracula.
So I was thinking about this, and it seems more like he gets it from the idea that she's using names of other people named Bella.
But I can't actually think of another Bella name just off the top of my head.
Right. It bothers me that Dean's the one who didn't recognize it, and Sam is the one who remembered it. Dean went with Luigi and not the other way around. Then they first set her up, she's flirting with Sam. But no, like, Bella was tailor-made as a character to be Dean's love interest, because here she is using these famous classic horror movie part actor names. I mean, Amy was talking about how Bela Lugosi was the original Dracula, but was the original of the Wolfman, Son of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein, The Raven, The Black Cat. There's just, the list goes on. He's a founding member of the Screen Actors Guild. The reason we all think of Dracula as having this bizarre accent is because that's just Bela Lugosi's real accent.
Yeah, I love him so much. The thing is, Dean does get the reference, because as soon as he says, like, Bela Lugosi, he goes, ah, nice. Like,
Right.
he understands it. So Dean would definitely remember that it's Lugosi. It doesn't make sense. You're right.
And yet, I don't believe that Bella Talbot watched these movies.
No. This is a reference for us, not from Bella, if that makes sense. It's written for us. And for Dean.
This is Ben Edlund.
Ben Edlund, yeah, this is Ben Edlund.
Right.
Hey, monster movie fans, this one's for you. Because if you didn't know who Bela Lugosi was, it would just seem like an alias that Bobby knows. If you know who Bela Lugosi is, it's like, it's a fun reference. It always makes me think of the Bauhaus song. Do you know the Bauhaus song? Bela Lugosi is dead.
I actually listened to that today.
Yeah.
Was it because of this show?
A little bit, yeah.
I love me some goth music. Bauhaus is like quintessential goth. Seriously. Listen to Bela Lugosi's Dead by Bauhaus and just tell me that you don't instantly flash back to your 15-year-old self like, yeah.
I absolutely did. Exactly. I absolutely did. So we find out that Bobby kind of has crossed paths with her a few times. Dean asks if she's a hunter, and he's like, no, not even close. But she knows about the hunting world.
Mm-hmm. He says he knows some people who know some people.
Oh, okay.
Who, like, can find her. Because Bobby knows everybody. We've established this already.
That's true. This is the first time that Bobby calls anyone idiot.
Just look out for your brother, you idiot.
Oh, it's so parental.
It's almost like it's the love you at the end of a phone call.
It is, yeah.
It's the closest that Dean gets.
It's a term of endearment. It definitely is. I mean, that's Bobby's flipping catchphrase. Like, if you buy Bobby merch, it's gonna say idiot on it somewhere. Like,
yes. Dean looks back over to Sam, who looks thoroughly dejected. Sam does his pathetic,
What?
I lost my shoe.
so it's after this that Sam goes from wearing like sneakers to boots, and I wonder if it's because of this.
They're
Yes.
probably Dean's.
they are, but like, Sam trying to fit his monster feet into like Dean's boots is hilarious to me.
Oh, you're right. He's so much taller. So
The sneakers that he's wearing are like the biggest like piece of crap shoes you've ever seen in your life. Like, they're honestly
For hunting, that's probably not the best footwear, because you're walking in like derelict places and like in fields and stuff like that. Like, surely you would want stuff that like your feet are gonna stay dry.
Yeah, that's what I think. Your feet are going to get wet in those shoes. How did Dean let him leave the house in those shoes? Like, come on.
do we ever see Sam's feet again, his shoes again? Because
Yes.
now
He wears like a boot, but it's more like it's like an ankle boot but it's like elastic. It doesn't have laces. It's like a slip-on.
That's very weird for this line of work too. I was just thinking about how when they started the series, he was like a little bit frat boyish. And they gave him the Tom Welling mop, the same haircut that every male lead on that channel had at that time.
Yeah.
He still has it. His hair is like flipped in this episode. But so he would have been wearing these, sneakers that cut off below the ankle, and that's what he's got. Because he's not serious about the life.
I mean, this is when you're right. I think he must switch to boots here. I love that. I'm going to try and see his feet next time we watch an episode, which is such a weird thing to say, but I also want to know now.
The pathetic pout. The pout on one side. Like it's completely overdone. His lip is just completely jutted out of his mouth.
So, honestly, again, Jared just does good comedic acting. I really think he's underrated as a comedic actor because it is actually really good, and sometimes it just is. It's just really good. I'm not going to say sometimes. It's really good.
Controversial, just to stir up all the hate mail for me and not on you at all. I don't find this funny anymore. Maybe it's because Jared just says it all the time now. Maybe I'm just expecting it too much. I remember how much the person who showed me this show initially was obsessed with this line.
Yeah.
And they have merch that says this everywhere.
I mean, I understand that as well, because it is a very heavily requested thing at conventions, which again, I don't understand. You get picked to ask a question and you do a request. It's like, what are you getting out of that? You've seen it in the show. I feel like they don't particularly enjoy doing lines from shows.
No.
Unless it's in a context of a story they're trying to tell. Can we move past that and actually start asking questions?
I agree, actually. No, this is actually a call out on this, because if you're at a convention, can you please just ask a question about the show that you're at the convention for, or the projects that they're working on? I'm actually not mad about that.
No, neither
but
am I.
Okay, what I really want someone to do is, can someone just please ask Jensen Ackles about Atomic Monsters? Because it's actually driving me, I feel like...
bonkers.
It's honestly, I think about it daily.
If you don't know, Jensen Ackles directed Atomic Monsters, which I'm sure do a whole episode.
I can do a whole episode on it, but
I'm here for it, Amy. We don't have to bother Annabelle. We can just go off. It can be a detour.
I'm not going to go into it, but if you would like me to write out the question that I need answered, just message me. I'll send it to you. Please, because it keeps me up at night. I need to know what happened. Anyway, moving on.
Dean says that Bella's in Queens, which is a 2-hour drive away. I've done that drive. It is a minimum 6.5-hour drive. If I'm doing it with my mother, it's an 8-hour drive.
So he's gone 6 hours. Let's convert that to Dean driving time. 2 hours. That's fine, I guess. So it's the Chuck time, right? So
exactly,
Chuck skews their time. It does have okay, fine, whatever. They haven't written it yet. Blah 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 blah. In my version of Supernatural, Chuck messes with their heads on time because there are massive time skips in Supernatural that cannot be explained. And I do think it's Chuck messing with the narrative. And for this, it's convenient that Dean would be able to get from Buffalo to Queens in 2 hours, so he can, because it's not real. I know it's not real because it's a TV show, but you know what I mean.
There were 2 whole episodes where they lose their luck, they lose their plot armor, and this is the one time in the entire series that they drive to Alaska.
Yeah,
which is not in the contiguous U.S., and that could have been the moment where they cut to them driving and just going, it's taking a really long time.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way that they're spending 16 hours in the car between every episode.
No.
And also, they don't have passports. How did they that could have been a whole thing, them trying to
get through on their crappy fake IDs that they've made at a print shop, trying to get through the Canadian border, and it's why isn't this working? This always works.
And already their magic credit card wasn't working.
Exactly.
Right.
Look, it could have been a whole thing. They should have made that 3 episodes. Easy.
Could have been just undercurrent for half the season.
So Dean's gonna drive to Queens. Fine. He leaves Sam in a hotel room. This real ugly motel room that's rose themed. Why? I don't know. And he says just stay here. Just don't. What was really funny this time is like he sits down in his chair and he's like, don't touch anything, don't turn off the light, don't turn on the light, don't even scratch your nose. And at this point I was like, I really need to scratch my nose. Did you do it as well? I was like,
I did every time. Don't scratch your nose. Okay, I won't scratch my nose.
For the audience at home, Amy and Annabelle are now scratching my nose
at the same time.
It's synchronized nose scritches.
Dean kind of leaves him there, and we do see Sam also like wrinkle his nose and scratch it as well, and then just sort of sit like, okay, I'm just gonna.
And he's left him to survive for somewhere between 4 and 13 hours.
Yeah, who knows? God time. It cuts to Queens.
It cuts to the Queensborough Bridge. It bothered me, and I had to figure it out from landmarks.
Oh.
It's the Queensborough Bridge, which is between Manhattan and Queens.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, okay, so it's nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a reasonable
because
time
it's been 13 hours. Or 6.5 hours.
It did actually take 6 hours to get there. It didn't take 2, because it's now the morning.
But it felt like 2 to Dean. Dean secretly gets a full night's sleep every night, not 4 hours.
That's how he manages to function.
He doesn't know what time is. He doesn't actually know how to read time.
Well, if you've never lived your life in linear time, you wouldn't recognize it when you. Anyway, we see Bella's apartment. It's beautiful. It's nice. It has weird things, and it has a lamp in the shape of some lips. Why?
They have to show it's fancy, so they give her a cat and a chandelier.
And a Siamese cat, the fancy cat.
The fanciest of cats, and a chandelier. And by the way, if they want to picture her as the most fancy, I'm surprised she's not living in Manhattan in 2007. But it is a huge apartment, and you would only be able to get that in Queens.
I was going to also say, like, she's in what would be the, like, I say quotation marks, sexy equivalent of, like, a female leisure suit, because it's like a velvet blue kind of jumpsuit.
I was thinking how much she looks like she was dressed by the designer from Ally McBeal, and not quite Sex and the City, but there was very much a New York aesthetic at that time. There were all these shows on TV where these people from New York were so fashionable and sexy, and you know, here she is, this Lara Croft Tomb Raider femme fatale. So, okay, she's getting multi-millions of dollars for each of these jobs.
Yeah.
She has plenty of money. They later call her an heiress, but she's like scrounging for money with all these jobs of hers.
Yeah, I feel like that does make sense, and I will explain that when we get to the episode, and you can see if you agree with me or not. she's on the call to someone, and she's arranging selling this for like 1.5 million, and it shows she knows what she's doing. She picks up the rabbit foot with tongs, and that it's cursed because the cat hisses at it, you know, and cats know these things. We kind of see she's got some security monitors, and you do see as she turns away, like Dean in the background, like walking through them. And she kind of knows something's up because she goes to get her gun from the cooler.
I went on a whole internet rabbit hole about whether the gun would work out of the fridge.
Oh, okay, let's know. I want to know, would the gun work if you left it in the cooler?
I felt stupid after going through this because it's not the freezer, it's the refrigerator, and people go hunting in the woods in the winter all the time.
That's a good point.
But I was like convinced that it wouldn't work, and they had made a mistake.
But the condensation, you don't get condensation so much if you're out in the woods.
Maybe
right?
That's why she misses.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just making it up.
She kind of draws this gun anyway, and she goes to her front door, which is slightly open, and sees the alarm system is erroring. And for some reason, Dean has left a note that says, "Turn around." And I realised it is in his handwriting because it matches the handwriting on the mixtape. But yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
And look, someone's going to be like, no, it doesn't.
Watching this the first time round, this didn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did he have time to do all of this? Watching it the second time round, it sticks out even more because you see him on the monitor, and then it's an instant, like, it's not like Bella goes somewhere else and does something. No, she goes immediately to her gun, goes to the front door.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably like 20 seconds. I'm pretty sure it takes more than 20 seconds for Dean to get up the stairs in her apartment, put a note on the thing, and get behind her.
Even if he pre-wrote it with this plan, like he was so proud of his plan of, I'm going to sneak up on her, and then she's going to see this post-it that says, "Turn around."
It's so... Right. When does Dean ever do this as well? Like, he does taunt people a lot, but, like, I don't feel like he plans the taunts in this way. You know, it's always, like, off-the-cuff kind of stuff. It's just weird to me. He's showing off to her because Charlie's
She's Bela
right.
Lugosi.
She's Bela Lugosi and Dean's apparent new love interest.
Well, so you need that cat and mouse, you need that banter, and Ben Edlund is referencing all these old noir movies.
Yeah.
These films. So I'm not mad at it, even as I recognize that it doesn't make any sense and he had no time and it's just cheeky.
So we cut back to Sam and he's like sat on the chair, you know, not really doing anything. He sees the air conditioner and it starts to make some weird noises and then smoke starts to come out of it.
Oh, come on. I wouldn't...
And then it catches fire. I love it so much.
And, like, the way he tries to put out the fire, I don't think I've ever seen anybody try and do that. He's not even getting to the actual base of the flames. He's just, like, patting the plastic on the outside, which it might do something. I don't know. I've never tried to put out a fire in this way, and I hope I never have to.
If you know that you're Mr. Bad Luck, and that the last guy died washing his hands, maybe... you're also the last person who should come up to a fire and start touching it and interacting with it.
I know Dean told him not to move, right? Like, not go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a fire. Wouldn't you leave?
Well, this is it. I thought about this. Like, could he just leave? And it's like, if he left, something would definitely happen to him. Like, a plant pot would fall from, like, above and, like, knock him out or something. Like, something else would have happened. So there was no way for Sam to win this situation. I do love that he does manage to get it out. They do the same shot that they got of him catching the gun, where his arm is just off screen, and then clearly some prop person is there lighting his arm on fire, so he can go like, "Oh no, I'm on fire!" The thing is, right, if your arm actually catches on fire like that, he tries to pat it out with the curtains. That ultimately leads to him like pulling them down and him falling over. But just take off your jacket, man. Just take your jacket off.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah.
Stop, drop, and roll.
If you're on fire, take the offending item of clothing off.
Bending.
But instead, he just flails around. So by the time that Kubrick and Creedy come to the window, he's just sort of flailing around a bonfire and knocks himself out. So that Kubrick can look up at the sky like, yes, I am indeed blessed by God. This mission is ordained by Jesus.
Which I think is hilarious, right? So you've been told by this radical hunter, Gordon, that this Sam Winchester guy is possibly not human, definitely gonna cause the world to end. Mm-hmm. And you've just seen him take himself out with a curtain.
He can't even walk across the street without knocking himself unconscious. No. He's clearly the Antichrist.
I feel like they must have heard the story about him knocking over stuff in the cafe or the restaurant too. You know, followed that whole little thing. So they must be in some way expecting to find some clumsy giant. Like,
we actually go back to Bella's apartment. There's a standoff between Bella and Dean.
Bella, right?
That's right. Dean.
This whole thing is very flirty. Bella calls Dean sweetie, but it's quite condescending, to be honest. He kind of talks to her about, like, well, you know you've stolen something cursed. And she kind of describes her job so that she gets paid for picking up these supernatural items and selling them. And she says, you know, you hunters with all those amulets and talismans used to stop those big bad monsters. Any one of them could put your children's children through college. So kind of hinting that the knowledge that they have is valuable. It's interesting this when you do think about like men of letters later on, I feel, because hunters are quite devalued in that society. Mm-hmm. And to think they have all this like secret hidden knowledge when actually they're just kind of seen as like cannon fodder. It doesn't kind of follow through as to what Bella's saying, because a lot of the stuff that we've seen them use is very slapdash, homemade, crafty, right? Think about the SpongeBob SquarePants placemat that they were using for an altar. Like, none of the stuff the Winchesters have is worth any money at all.
Except that this was something that the Winchesters had. But yes, mostly.
That's true.
They're putting their own lives above selling it for money. And John Winchester would not have wanted to sell it and put his kid through college, apparently.
Yeah.
Would he have spent it on ammo, though, instead? Sorry.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. That's what he did with their college fund.
Yeah.
Canonically.
Yeah.
Except he's wearing the amulet right now.
That's so funny to me, actually.
But nobody knows what that is yet.
Not even the writers, yes.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
That's quite amusing. And I mean, there's things I've definitely come across. Like, I feel like people would pay Bella for that haunted painting in Provenance, for example. I feel like people would pay for that. It's just showing their difference in morality. I mean, apparently getting money is, bad, so... And they're very righteous because they save people all the time and never do anything that could be morally dubious. Dean says she's a thief. Bella's like, yeah, I'm a great thief. Which I love that she's just like, yeah, whatever, I'm do what I want.
Because this episode's made of juxtapositioning different modes and moods, we go right from sexy standoff back to slapstick.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. We see Sam and Creedy and Kubrick, they're all in the motel room, still with a broken curtain, so people could potentially see inside and see this guy, like, being strapped up. Anyway, whatever.
He would have to be lucky for someone to rescue him, though.
That's true.
His luck, it would be Hendrickson or something.
Just walking past the window like, Sam
Winchester. But they're duct taping Sam to a chair. If this guy thinks it's his job to put a bullet in Sam's brain, why did he not do that when Sam was unconscious?
Yes, it would be good to stop Sam in his tracks. He also just tries to find out what the demons are planning.
Send him to beat him for information for some reason. I don't know what they're trying to get later, so you're right.
Yeah, I think they're trying to figure out what the demons are going to do next, because Kubrick doesn't need convincing. Kubrick's pretty sure that Sam is a demon in some capacity, whether, or something, and that he's on a mission from God, as he says in this scene. As they wake up Sam...
I used to think your friend Gordon sent me.
Gordon? Oh,
Yeah,
come on.
Because he asked me to track you down and put a bullet in your brain.
Great, that sounds like him.
But, as it turns out, I'm on a mission from God.
So fed up on this
He just
ride.
looks
Like,
bored.
what's next? Like, what else can you throw at me, world?
What I love about, like, before he even says this line is Sam starts to talk and Kubrick just snaps his fingers at him.
Yeah.
Right?
And just completely just derails whatever Sam was going to say. As well, maybe it was Creedy who stopped Kubrick from killing him. Surely Creedy's not convinced that this guy is some all-powerful demon lord.
Yeah, I think he's
himself
a bit
out.
more skeptical because of the reason that he's just, like, slapsticked his way, Jerry Lewis style, into that floor.
Exactly.
Yeah, real dangerous, Kubrick.
You would think that, maybe he's not a demon. Like, you'd think he'd be more badass from the things that Gordon was saying.
Exactly.
But
So Kubrick knocks Sam out again. But with Sam's bad luck, that could have been really bad, right?
Yeah.
He could have, really hurt
Look,
Sam.
Sam should have died this episode. I will elaborate on that later.
I think we're all in
sure.
agreement on all of those points. Also, just the position of Kubrick saying he's on a mission from God, smack Sam in the face.
Yeah.
Why do the missions from God always have to be so violent?
Yeah, it's not a good view of this type of faith, I feel.
Yeah, no, not at all.
No, not at all.
No, it's very different than, say, later in the season in Justin Bellow. You get a very different view of a religious Christian person.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I'm looking forward to that.
Like I said, the first time we watched this through, the guy who plays Kubrick is Funboy from The Crow.
Yes, he is, yes.
And I can't not see him as Funboy, and I hate that character with a passion.
I hate that character too. So many good goth references in this episode. Just saying, The Crow, Bauhaus. Oh gosh, I was obsessed with The Crow as a teenager, and look where it got me into Supernatural.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're back at Bella's apartment. He's trying to be to cool on Bella's compassionate side. He says, "Well, look, my brother touched it." I think it's at this point that we realize that she is quite cold.
Yeah.
Because she says she knows how it works. Like, she doesn't need his sub story. She doesn't care. She's gonna get money for it, and that's all that really matters. Because she says, you know, you can have it, and Dean's okay, like, oh, cool, yeah, that sounds good. You know, 1.5 million.
Toying with the boy.
Yes, very much so.
Dean kind of calls Bella out and says, like, you're only out for yourself then, you know, it's all about you. And she says this line which is just so cutting.
Being a hunter is so much more noble. Bunch of obsessed, revenge-driven sociopaths trying to save a world that can't be saved.
Well, aren't you a glass half full?
We're all going to hell, Dean. Might as well enjoy the ride.
I actually agree with you there.
His face changes so quickly from, like, disapproval to, like, oh yeah, I actually agree with you.
Yeah,
it's not what I thought you were about to say. It's what he's been saying for the past 2 episodes.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But he means it more literally, so we think.
Well, this is it, because as far as he knows, Bella isn't going to hell, so she's just, like, using it as an expression, but he's like, this is funny to my situation. Yeah, Dean is very much at this point in his mindset of, like, enjoy yourself while you can, because, yeah, we're all going to hell. Mm-hmm. The thing is, and I've been thinking about this, I think that the Crossroads thing is not affecting Dean as much as maybe it should be. Because although it's cut his time short, I don't think he ever thought that he was going to get that much time anyway, and that he was always going to go to hell. Because we have no indication from Dean that he believes in any other kind of afterlife, you know.
In fact, later he doesn't believe it.
Exactly. So I think Dean always knew that he was going to live a short life, and he's like, well, it's just shorter than I was expecting. I'll just carry on how I was, you know, keep on how I was keeping on.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know that he even expected to make it this far.
Mm-hmm.
But also, what bothers me about that line is I very much think it was written before they knew Bella's fate.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Especially with the writer's strike.
Because it is just a cheesy line of, like, Dean, like, haha, that is funny. But now if you read it back, knowing what happens to Bella, it's like, haha, that's really tragic.
Yeah. And she's not written as a tragic person at this point.
No, she's not. She's just an antagonist, a flirty antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that later one, I think, was written by, I just looked it up, it was written by Sarah Gamble and not Edlund, which makes sense a lot.
Yeah, it makes very much sense.
A lot of female characters on Supernatural are killed off by writers who did not introduce them.
Yeah, funny that.
Mm-hmm. It's like something's being said.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, the tension. Yeah, I love that line because it's horrifying. Dean says, you know, I agree with you, but this has been charming, but I gotta go. And he reveals that he has somehow swiped the rabbit's foot from Bella. She looks very, very, she's like, how did you even do that? It's a good turntable moment.
It does not surprise me that Dean would be a good pickpocket.
Oh no, definitely. He's able to do that. There's a good sort of like push-pull relationship between them where it's almost like a one-upping it gets to at some point. Yeah.
It would have been nice to see that play out for an entire season.
Yeah, I
don't know where they were planning to go with it.
Because Bella's in a fair few episodes. They could have like added and I would have loved Bella to have still been around when, like, Ketch was about. I feel like that could have been a really fun dynamic.
I went off the deep end, apparently, again. At some point, I didn't actually finish it, but I was looking at how high a percentage of episodes Bella was in this season. Mm-hmm. And if you look at it that way, because it's such a short season, she beats how many episodes even, like, Cass was in later seasons. In almost every season. She certainly beats how many other characters were in most of the time. The characters we consider very important, and she's only in the one season.
I do think they were going to make her a recurring character that sort of like appeared and like caused some havoc and like went again and kind of had an on and off thing with Dean. Like I totally could have seen that happening and playing out. Right. Was it because Lauren Cohen left to go do The Walking Dead? Is that why she didn't continue on with Supernatural?
Or did they just have a rule that they can't have any female characters
sustain
over a season?
There could be that too, yeah.
But why didn't they bring back Joe and Ellen this season?
It's a really interesting question because it would have been a good time to do it. Like, we don't even know that Joe's alive at this point. We don't know what happened to Ellen, and she was in the season finale for season 2. why would you not bring her back and say what had happened to her?
And they're going to come back and be important as if they haven't been missing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I don't get it. Again, maybe availability, but I do think that it was just they wanted to introduce some other storylines into this. Mm-hmm. I do think at this point they were starting to realize where this was going. Like, there must have been a point in season 3 they were like, oh, okay, this is where it's going. And that's why some of these storylines changed and stuff. Because maybe they were going to bring Ellen and Joe back.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Like, because they close out Gordon's story, they close out Hendrickson's story, and all of this started in season 2. So I feel like there probably was a plan to maybe even close out Ellen and Joe's story, or make them more important, or something. I was also going to say, because this is supernatural and they don't know how to write women, if Joe and Bella met, they would obviously have some sort of cat fight about Dean.
As well.
Exactly.
No one wants to see that.
No, nobody.
Somebody wants to see that, just none of us.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't want to see women fight over men. Never. They're over that trope. Over it. Yeah.
As Dean's leaving, he says, if there's any consolation, I think you're a truly awful person, which I think is a lovely line. Like, the way that he dismisses Bella is the greatest throughout this whole entire season.
Yeah, that's
true. Great. As he starts to leave, Bella fires her gun at Dean, and we're back to slapstick. Mm-hmm. The bullet ricochets everywhere and destroys like objects in their house. Then she fires again, and she keeps missing. She fires like 3 times. Board. Yeah, like
she's smarter than that.
She is. Like, what makes you think that you? I mean, she believes in her skills. Mm-hmm. But, like, after the first one and everything, like, goes crazy, stop.
The rage of losing all that money.
Yeah, I guess
to the guy that just broke into your apartment who you thought was, like, some weird redneck.
And I love the last line of this scene of... See ya! You just hear this very quiet, like, see ya!
See ya! Clearly done in post. Like...
Yeah.
And now Dean is back off again to drive 2 to 7 hours back to Sam, in which he's bet that he's not going to lose the rabbit.
For being tied up in a chair and potentially tortured by these 2 random hunters, Sam's doing pretty well for a 2-hour drive. Like, does he stay unconscious for that long? Like, or does he like taking a nap? Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. So Creedy wakes up Sam, so we're back at the motel room. Creedy wakes up Sam by throwing water in his face.
Sorry, is it water or is it lube water?
We'll never know. So this is what I was saying with, like, Kubrick's radicalism of his faith makes him cruel. Yeah. Because instead of listening to what Sam is saying, he just wants answers from him. Yeah. Like, and the answers are not correct. Because he's asking, what are the plans? Why did you open the demon gate? Well, we did. Sam says we did everything to stop it, and he just says lie. Yeah, he doesn't believe
3 times.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's so weird.
And then he's like, "What's their next move?" He says, "I don't know. You got this all wrong." And then he, again, not listening, he says, "Where are you going to hit us next?" I find it interesting. He says, "Hit us next."
Yeah, because he doesn't see Sam as human anymore. This is what that's showing.
Yeah,
exactly. He thinks he's lying because he's a demon. He doesn't see him as human, and that's why he can treat him like this as well. And this is an ongoing theme in Supernatural, that you can treat monsters badly or like demons badly because they are inherently evil. And because Kubrick now sees Sam as not human, it means that he can like hurt him in this way without any repercussions.
He even says, Gordon told me about you, about your powers. You're some kind of weirdo psychic freak. Mm-hmm. Which Sam hasn't referred to himself as a freak in a really long time, which I think's quite lovely. And he tells them that he has no powers, he has no visions, no nothing, it's all gone. And again, Kubrick's not listening. He doesn't want to know that Sam's actually human.
I mean, I think it's interesting that Sam says he doesn't have his powers anymore, because that was never brought up previously since the season finale, that his powers have gone. Which it kind of indicates that maybe Yellow Eyes was fueling his powers in some way, but I think we eventually find out that it's not exactly true.
I think they're trying to figure out how the powers work.
Got rid of them completely in this season, and then next season, right from the jump.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I think I said previously, I think Ruby is the pipeline. I think she explains how we get from the meta in seasons 1 and 2 as to how we get to the meta from season 4 moving onwards. I think she is the conduit for that, because she explains a lot here and kind of fills in a lot of gaps. I mean, yeah, so they're asking him here about the demon gate and stuff. Like, obviously he doesn't know. Through all of this, you know, Sam's kind of holding out, and eventually, of course, Dean turns up.
Just as Kubrick has pulled a gun on Sam and is about to just be like, well, you don't have any answers for me. Execution time.
Luck like that doesn't just happen.
Look, I can explain all of that.
Shut up. It's God, Greedy. He led us here for one reason. To do his work. This is destiny.
Whoa. Nope. No destiny.
Of course, Dean bursts in because Dean can't let destiny just go ahead. You know, when Kubrick points the gun at Sam's forehead, Dean cocks his gun to stop him, and he says, no, it's not destiny, it's just a rabbit's foot. Dean doesn't believe in destiny. He can't possibly believe in destiny because it does not work for his character at all.
It just hurts so much for his existential crisis coming in like season 4.
The destiny thing, it bothers me, and I do feel for
15.
Dean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's never destiny, though. It's always something supernatural, and I think that's what he lives by.
Well, even here, I mean, Kubrick keeps saying he was sent by God, and the part that can make Amy go insane is technically he's not wrong.
Technically, he's not wrong. I mean, this is it. This is look. Watching this as a retrospective, with knowing about Chuck and knowing all about their narrative and how it goes. I mean, so what was Chuck trying to tell them in this episode? You always have to think of that. Like, what lesson was he trying to teach them, or what was he trying to do, or
what was he just trying to entertain himself?
Yeah, what was he getting out of it? So, like, I don't know what Chuck's getting out of this episode, other than like maybe Sam getting hurt in some way. I think Gordon ties into this a lot, and we kind of, when we talk about Fresh Blood, I think we mentioned this again.
A lot of times he's just trying to write a good story, right? So everything that the writers, everything that the network do together becomes Chuck's books.
Exactly. It's just interesting when you watch it through that lens, because it does really add to the show, I feel, in a weird way.
So what is he saying about Kubrick's character and like his faith of God?
Well, I do think that though that's interesting, because I don't think Chuck has any time or room for believers, right? He doesn't care about them enough. He would see them as like
annoying,
on par with like Becky Rosen.
True. It's also though, like later on when Amara brings him to meet his more devout followers that have been turned into angels, and he does not want to spend any time with them, and he does not care about their love and affection. He just wants to get away from them.
Exactly. This is it. Like Chuck is the writer is our Chuck, so it all kind of works all together. But yeah, I'm going to continue watching the show like this. Like, what was Chuck thinking here? What was he doing? Honestly.
Everyone talks about that shoe scene, but for me, this coming up is like this defining moment in this episode.
So yes, so the gun, we have Dean. He says no destiny, and he kind of Kubrick's like, put the gun down, and Dean's like, oh, this old thing, like, and puts it down on the table, and it's so smug the way he does this. It's like,
but you see, there's something about me that you don't know.
Yeah, what would that be?
It's my lucky day. Oh my God, did you see that shot?
He tosses a pen, like, underarm into Kubrick's gun. Like, it's so good, and it's so stupid. Like,
and the implication is that Dean was trying on purpose to get that pen into the barrel of that gun, which is an insane thought for him to have had.
100% believe that he thought he could do that too, and I love him for it.
I'm surprised that they didn't actually say, with how much ham they have put into this episode, do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Especially being named after a Western.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Like it is too obvious, but they pulled a what's in the box, didn't they?
I'm surprised there weren't more luck references from other films. I am, actually.
I love the way, like, he's genuinely surprised that he does it, because he's like, oh my God, did you see that?
Like, did you see that shot?
Come on, if you did that, you would look around and be like, come on, guys, that was great, right? Even to the like, antagonist, you'd be like, come on, you got to be impressed with
like,
that.
Creedy, like, lunges, and Dean just sort of sidesteps him, and Creedy knocks himself out on the wall.
Ninja.
It was... I wonder if he picked that up from, like, their fight at Grossman and Wayne's apartment.
It's like he watched the film of that fight scene and analyzed it and just went, I know how to do this now.
Exactly. The way that Kubrick looks at his gun and the pen, he's just like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad that the only time that Dean's, like, super, like, into himself and, like, feeling himself is, like, in this moment where he's got all this luck and he's like, I'm amazing. Like, how many times does he say I'm amazing?
Oh, Annabelle.
About himself. When he's not, like, got something supernaturally good happening to him.
Dean thinks he's amazing when he's acting like heroes in his favourite films.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You're attacking me.
You know, he sees himself as a tragic hero, right? I do think that's how he views himself, which is a weird old thing to think about yourself. But yeah, so he's like, yeah, well, why not? If I do all these things, I am awesome.
Imposter syndrome. He is always playing the hero, and he is the hero, but he doesn't believe that about himself. He doesn't think he's the role model, even as he's emulating those heroes.
Absolutely, 100%. That is true.
Does he not see himself as the main character in his own story?
I don't think he does. I think
Sam is.
Sam is the main character.
Yeah.
To Dean, Sam is the main character. He's just his side. Look, Sam is Dean's sidekick, but...
And that's how it was originally written, too. It was originally written with Dean as the sidekick. He was the Han Solo to Sam's Luke.
Exactly. We know the story is about Dean. Dean thinks he's just a sidekick in Sam's life of, like, living an apple pie, you know, make a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because he's so deeply rooted in media and, like, media culture that he would see himself in that way. He is Han Solo.
Literally, Kripke fused him out of Kerouac and Han Solo.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, one per episode. So Kripke wrote him as the sidekick, and he broke free of the narrative that Kripke wrote and became the main character of the story.
Yeah.
Yep.
He did. The thing is, like, again, Dean would never believe that he is that. He didn't. Okay, right, look, we could get into this, and with the whole, like, does Dean believe he can break through the narrative, because I can't even with this today. Like, it's too much. It is nearly 3 a.m. While he is feeling his oats as, like, the main character, because he is, for the moment, in his mind, picks up a remote and, like, throws it at Kubrick, and he properly goes down.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, he says,
I'm Batman.
It's not the line for me, it's the face.
It is the face.
You can tell Jensen had so much fun with this episode.
Yeah.
Just subconsciously, is this part of the reason Jensen would go on to play Batman? Just planting that seed in some casting director's mind.
Do you think he's already put out his feelers to try and be a superhero, and
I mean, he is one now.
He is one now, like, multiple times over. He's been an antagonist too, because he was Red Hood.
I don't know how much it comes from him, or, like, I think generally the industry want him to be a superhero. Like, it seems to have always been leading to this. And I do wonder what he will do after The Boys, like whether or not he would get another superhero role after that.
Just don't be DC.
Interesting to see.
Just don't be live action DC.
Yeah.
No, not live action DC. It sucks. It sucks.
It does.
But Henry Cavill made a good career out of that, let's be honest. He's the Witcher now as well, which is the nerdiest thing that he could possibly be doing. Oh, I love Henry Cavill so much. He is my nerd icon.
I do love Sam's response as well to this. Like, I know, and everyone focuses on, like, I'm Batman line.
But then
Sam's sarcastic response while he's still tied to a chair, bruised, bloody, and, like, covered in water is,
yeah, you're Batman.
He's like, can you just come and tie me, you posing piece of butt?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
He's performing only for Sam here. Like, the pose, this line is only for Sam, and Sam does not care. He's heard this before, like, Dean throughout his life of doing stupid stuff. Can you imagine, like, I don't know, young Dean, like, jumping from one bed in the motel to the other, like, I'm Batman, and, like, little Sam's like, yeah, but now it's, like, nearly 20 years later, and it's like, yeah, sure, what, look, This was old a decade ago.
So my headcanon now is they play it there at they're at a bar, and there's like a dartboard, and every time that he gets like a bullseye, he says like, "I'm Batman."
Do you remember that time, Sam? Remember that time I threw that pen and that gun? This is just like that.
Exactly. After that, we've had 3 iconic lines in this episode alone. So we're at the cemetery because they figured out how they can destroy it. Just looks like it's some sort of fire.
The usual.
Sam, it just doesn't really matter what's in it. It's just burn it, because that's the thing to do. I do find it interesting that Dean again now has more scratch cards, and he tells Sam to back off because he's a jinx. Which I do want again. Who is the good luck better than the bad luck? So would him just being near the scratch cards make them less lucky?
So like this is what, okay, we're talking probability luck. So the ones that Dean has in his hands are already going to be winning ones. You can't change the fabric of reality necessarily like that with the luck. But if Sam got hold of them, they would end up in the fire somehow. Like that's what would happen.
You say that, but Dean bought the first batch that Sam scratched off.
Yes, but that's because he hadn't already been in the luck thing. Sam was already manipulating the probability of him picking up the winning ones in that. So I feel like they would still have been winning ones if Dean had scratched them off. In my way of how this is working.
So what you're saying is that if Sam had bought them, they would not have been lucky. But because Dean probably bought them, they are lucky.
Yeah. Okay, here's what it is. If Sam had bought them, they would not have been winning tickets. Something else would have happened while Dean was scratching off in order for it to be lucky. Like someone would have walked past and offered him a brand new car. Or like he would have found a sack of money in a tree. Like something else would have happened.
Right. Like I liked your, if Sam touched them, he would accidentally throw them into the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Dean finally decides that that's enough money, I guess. And he stashes the scratch cards in his jacket, which is slung over a gravestone. He never takes off his jacket, so I don't know why he's done it here, but I do know why. But he says, "Goodbye, wascally wabbit," which I can say properly because I have a real bad lisp for the moment. Wascally wabbit. And then, of course, as they're about to throw the rabbit's paw into the fire, Bella turns up and cocks her gun. There's a lot of cocking going on in this show.
Well, Dean's been pretty cocky at the end of this episode. And I have to admit, when she pulled that gun, I was thinking, Dean still has the rabbit's foot. She has no chance. What does she think she's doing? Dean tries to give the same speech that he gave Grossman, like word for word, implying that Annabelle was right and it wasn't so sincere earlier, which makes me sad.
You're not gonna shoot anybody. See, I happen to be able to read people.
She doesn't let them finish sentences or phrases. Like, she will not, when he was trying to be compassionate, every time Dean tries to be compassionate with her, she's like, shh, literally shoots it down.
Yeah. And that's smart of her, I feel. Because they can talk their way out of a situation. I don't necessarily think Bella would give in to it that easy, but Dean can do it. It takes time, but he can do it.
It takes him about a season. So the show was kind of created in the vein of Buffy, and Buffy's superpower, the show, Buffy's superpower was this witty banter. And they have that, and so she as a villain keeps taking it away from them. I really like that, Annabelle.
So, as Dean is giving his speech, Bella shoots Sam.
What the hell is wrong with you? You don't just go around shooting people like that.
Relax. It's a shoulder hit. I can aim. Besides, who here hasn't shot a few people?
This is the moment Amy has been waiting for because, and we're all in agreement of this, Sam should be dead.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I said it, so I definitely agree with myself.
Yes. And she says, you I can't hit, Sam I can't miss. It's clearly, she says it's a shoulder shot. It'll be fine. The next time we see Bella, she's like, oh, it was barely a graze. No. The bullet is in his shoulder.
Yeah, clearly it's in his shoulder.
I don't think she's being literal. I think she's just being like, suck it up, you'll be fine.
It's there. No, okay, yeah. No, I know
it's what you mean. It's in the gun, the god gun spot, actually.
It is, yeah. You're right.
Exactly where the other guy got shot early in the episode.
Funny that. Yeah, right, okay, no. I don't care how much of a good shot Bella is, there should have been some kind of bad luck that meant Sam died here. Sorry. But, like, why are you shooting at a guy you know who's got terrible luck? I don't know, the bullet could have ricocheted off his shoulder bone and, like, anything.
Okay, headcanon. If she had instead fired a warning shot into the air or at a tree, it would have ricocheted or come down and hit him in the head and killed him.
Absolutely, 100%. That would have happened, yes.
So this was better.
Yeah, but she shouldn't have fired... Okay, fine. She shouldn't have fired it at all, but, like... Oh, if she fired him, it should have wounded him more fatally, but I guess it doesn't fit with the theme of the show, this episode particularly, because, like, it's quite light and quite fun, and if Sam died here, maybe it would not be as light as fun, but, like, you know.
His bad luck is not quite as strong as his plot armor.
This is the thing. So why is his plot armor stronger than his luck?
For a long time, I had been thinking here that, obviously, besides plot armor, like, is Sam being kept alive by the demon deal? If he doesn't live for that year, would the deal, be void and they wouldn't get Dean's soul? Now I've sort of come up with this secondary headcanon. We find out in season 15, in this episode about luck, that the boys have, like, uber luck. They have this god plot armor level luck. And so throughout the episode, I'm wondering if everyone else who's touched this rabbit foot dies, and Wayne died, like, instantaneously, why is Sam still alive?
Yeah.
Is it because his luck was much higher to start with than the average person?
That's a good point, because I feel like this rabbit foot almost, like, displaces luck. Like, that's how it kind of would work. So it would make sense if it's kind of drawing it away from them. If they already have a higher than average threshold, it would take longer for it to take effect, to the point where it's fatal.
just a retcon headcanon about their default special plot armor luck. Hero's luck.
It does work with this episode because it doesn't make that Sam definitely survives for longer than he should have done, and he definitely should have died when he got shot by Bella, but it doesn't work for the story if he does. So his plot armor must protect him from the worst effects of the rabbit foot.
And Chuck's writing the story.
Yeah.
Annabelle came up with a theory last time around about how long you've had the rabbit's foot versus once you lose it and how long it takes you to die.
I'm still kind of in that camp a little bit. By all accounts, it seems that Wayne had the rabbit's foot for maybe an hour, maybe 2. Like, it was very, very short time because it took them a while to open up the box, and then they were playing poker for a little bit. I don't know how long an average round of poker between 2 people can be, but I can't imagine it's hours on end. And then Sam's had it maybe for like 8 hours. Dean's luck probably would have been the best, or bad luck would have, like, his survival rate would have been the longest, because it, by all accounts, he had it the longest for the car drive and all of that.
Yeah.
That's the only way that I could see that maybe that's the reason why Sam didn't die, like, instantly, because you're right, like, everything that's happened, first fall out of the restaurant should have been his undoing.
Yeah, he could have fallen on a knife or something, or, like, there are loads of ways he could have died in that restaurant, like, quite simply.
Annabelle, you said that it had been nighttime when Dean left Sam. If not for that one shot, I would have said the entire episode happened within one day.
I think it was longer as well. I think, I do think that the drive to Queens took as long as it actually should have taken, although Dean thinks it only took 2 hours, and that Sam has had that rabbit foot for, like, quite a long time.
So Dean only perceived 2 hours, but Bella actually had a 7-hour drive.
Yeah, I like the idea that, like, the longer you have it, the longer you might survive afterwards. I think that's cool because, like, it just sucks luck from your future self, like a weeping angel style luck device.
Oh,
yeah.
Because Sam is Dean's weakness in this episode.
Yeah,
Dean's gonna give up the rabbit's foot. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
But as he bends down to, like, he's going to do his magic underarm throw, or he does do it, and he says, "Think fast," and she grabs a hold of it, and now the luck is transferred to her. She knows what's going to happen, so she's like, okay, well, I guess we'll destroy it. And
so it seems that the luck that they get is in some way also conspiring for it to end, right? So you're right, with the Biggersons thing, that picture of them ultimately led to, like, Kubrick and
Bella
Creedy finding them. Exactly. So it is kind of devising its own transference, again, like the One Ring, because the One Ring stays with them until it basically wants to move on, And I think it's the same with the rabbit's foot. It's all the things. I don't think it's really lucky, if that makes sense. I know it's a cursed object, so that's true. But I think all the luck that it gives you obviously comes with a price, but it's while you have it. And I think that's what's missing from this episode. The luck that you have while you have it is setting you up for all the bad luck that you're going to get later. It's not without a cost. And that's very, like, in Supernatural, they explore this a lot, that you can't have good things without a cost, or magic without a cost. And it's quite a common thing in, like, fantasy settings, that all these things come with a cost. And I think the rabbit's foot is a good example of that.
And yet it was so disproportional. I mean, Wayne won a few hands of poker that weren't even for money, and he got impaled on a barbecue fork.
Monkey's paw.
Monkey's paw, yes. But then, you know, Sam had all of this time with it.
Say, I know Wayne was being a bit of a big baby at the beginning of this episode, you know, saying, oh, I'm dying, blah, blah, blah. But what if he actually was? And having the rabbit's foot saved his life because of this army medic. So that's why his luck ran out so quickly.
I like that.
That's
and
cool.
At the same time, I kind of want my personal headcanon of he had to die because he was complaining that he was dying out of this, like, flesh wound.
This is what you get for complaining. We'll come back to the episode, and Bella drops the rabbit's foot into the fire that's burning, all the embers, and, you know, it's like, thanks very much, I'm out 1.5 million, and at the bad side of a very powerful, fairly psychotic fire. They don't care. Not even in a little bit.
Wow. I really don't feel bad about that. Sam?
Nope. Not even a little.
Maybe next time, I'll hang you out to dry.
Oh, don't go away, Angry. Just go away.
Just these one-liners to dismiss her is just great.
Yeah. Bella leaves. She's very, like, nonchalantly leaving, like, bye, leaning on stuff, like, bye, guys, bye. It's a weird love interest setup, because I'll be honest, when I first watched this, I didn't see any kind of chemistry between Dean and Bella. Like, I just saw it as like an antagonistic relationship, but I've never read well into those relationships where they kind of have like a flirty
Enemies
banter.
lover.
Yeah, I don't really, not on screen, I don't feel like the enemies to lovers trope works on me. Like, I just don't see it. I'm like, well, they clearly just hate each other.
Is it weird that I read it as like a one-sided chemistry? Like, Jensen has chemistry with everyone, and then everybody else has to work at it to be on his level.
You know, Bella's left, they're walking away. Dean asks Sam if he's all right. Like, he's been shot in the shoulder, and he's like, I'll live, I'll be fine. I think after the day he's had, like, I think he's kind of almost relieved that this is what he's got away with. You know, he could have been set on fire. He could have fallen down a grate. He could have, like, been killed by Kubrick. There's a few ways he could have gone out today. So I think getting shot in the shoulder is a win, I guess.
Yeah.
Dean says that they're up $46,000. And he goes to, like, search his jacket, just like Sam did in the restaurant. And, of course, it's gone, and Bella drives off laughing at them. Which, fair.
Son of a bitch!
My favorite one of the series, probably.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
It's the body shake that he does with it.
Yes, the arm, like...
Just, Jared couldn't even keep it together in the take they used for the episode. He's laughing before he even says it.
Yes.
I love that.
Like, he knows it's coming, and he can't not. And it's great.
It would take a stronger person than me to not laugh at that. So, you know, I'm fully on board.
We're kind of bookending this episode because we're back at the prison, and it's with Kubrick and Gordon again. You know, it's funny, I didn't clock this the first time, but Dean threw that remote so hard, it broke Kubrick's nose. It split it right open.
It did,
Oh
yes,
my God.
How many times a day do you think Dean refers to the remote control as the Batarang? Like,
oh, that was good.
Kubrick is now convinced. He's telling, you know, Gordon that Sam Winchester is more than a monster. He's the adversary.
Which I just very much enjoy. Gordon is like, okie dokie then. I'm still going to use you to bust me out of here, but you're crazy.
That one word, okay, the way he did that felt nothing like Gordon. Like,
No.
there's no other moment that he's had this kind of, like, almost, it's not jovial, but it's, like, playful.
Sarcastic.
Yeah. He's always been very straight-edged, very, like, I'm on a mission, nothing's going to take me away from that mission, and it's just very strange that he's showing a human side to him, which is very weird.
Well, I mean, look at him from his point of view, right? Kubrick rocked up, and maybe he knew that Kubrick was religious to start with, but I mean, he's gone after Sam and come back a completely changed man. Something happened to Kubrick while he was with that Sam that has made him like fanatical in his faith.
Was he not before?
I don't know. I don't think to this extent. I don't like, because of the way that Gordon just sort of reacts to him. I feel like it's a change. It might not be a massive change, but I feel like his interaction with Sam has changed him fundamentally. And like, it does make sense, because if you think about because Kubrick and Creedy never found out about the rabbit's foot. So what has happened here, right? They have gone after Sam, who Gordon has told them is the adversary, right? Or whatever. He's not human. He's got psychic powers. They go find this kid who knocks himself out through some weird set of circumstances that looks like God has led them there. They find him, doesn't have any answers for them, looks like a normal kid, and then his weirdo brother turns up and throws a pen in their gun and knocks them out with the remote. Like, that's what's happened to them. They don't know about all the other stuff, so it looks like some kind of odd supernatural thing has happened to them, but they have no idea what it is. And of course the conclusion is that Gordon's right all along and Sam's a flippin' antichrist.
But you're right. Kubrick's reaction could have just as easily been, turns out Sam's just some schmo, but his brother is the Antichrist.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The use of the word, like calling him the adversary, is quite interesting. I feel like, so what have we had so far? Episode 1, they called Sam Boy King. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that was that. So. And then here they're calling the like adversary. It's definitely leading to something. I wonder what it could be. Like, it's becoming clearer where the story's going.
I just also think it's interesting that, like Dean, Gordon is, at this point, believing in demons, believing in monsters, essentially believing that Sam Winchester is the Antichrist, but thinking that Kubrick is crazy for believing in God.
Yeah. It's really interesting how they deal with faith in supernatural, and I love it. I love how they do it. Like, of course you'll believe the things you've seen, right? Yes, you've seen demons, and yes, you've seen like hell gates open. Like, of course you can believe that because you've seen it. But nothing good happens to these people, so why would they believe in anything on the flip side of that? Being able to trust your reality is an integral part of supernatural, like being able to trust the things you're seeing are real. And I think that's where this plays into their idea of faith, in that they only trust the things that are being able to be seen. Which means that when reality gets like messed with, it becomes kind of more tragic in a way. I headcanon that Dean, and Sam does as well, it's shown later in seasons that both of them struggle with what's reality and what's not reality, because they have to be confronted with it so often.
So, he's very dismissive of Kubrick's proclamation that it's God's will, and he's just glad to be on board, but he needs to get out of prison. His very stated line of like, because I told you before, Sam Winchester must die. Yeah. And then he hangs up the phone, and then that's the end of the episode. And
they moved the camera. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's like focused on his face. I feel like this was a Robert Singer moment. Like, I feel like he was like, we need to make sure that Gordon's motivations are clear. It's not like he shot at him with a sniper rifle in the last episode, or tried to explode him, which, is seen by Ava to actually have happened. Like, we know that he wants this guy to die. Like, what is this line?
It's like they couldn't decide whether it should end the episode on a cliffhanger or end the teaser on a cliffhanger, and they went with both.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree. Absolutely. It's just so dramatic and over the top, and it's very soap opera, and I kind of love it, and I kind of think it's stupid at the same time. Overall, I mean, this is a classic episode, to be honest. Like, the bad luck, the idea of plot armor that you can bring into this after watching like the Fortuna episodes is amazing. And I love it.
Just all the pratfalls.
The slapstick.
The slapstick.
Obviously. Yes. We love some slapstick.
The explicit Jerry Lewis references.
Yeah, exactly. It's all very... it's just a great episode of Supernatural, and I feel like this is when it started to get funny. Like, I know they did some pranks and stuff in the previous episodes for, like, Hell House, and there was some other ones as well. But like this feels like the first real like goofy episode.
You can just feel Mystery Spot coming with this one.
Absolutely.
And I always think of that as the first bonkers, silly episode, and clearly it's not.
Yeah. It's amazing they had 2 in this season, in this short season, because Mystery Spot is coming up. Yeah.
And maybe by that time they actually have the silly montage going.
Good episode, fun time. We've already recorded it because this is a re-record, but I'm going to still tell you what the next episode is because that's what I do. So the next episode that we're going to be watching is Sin City. Oh boy.
Oh, it's a good one.
It is a good one. It is a really good, like, it was surprisingly good. There were things in that, I think I cried.
Yeah. I laughed, I cried. I thought it was in a later season. That's all I'm telling you about it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Charlie, for joining us again and again.
Yeah. Okay, we just need to talk about this because, like, Charlie's been an excellent sport because we recorded this episode twice. So go check out her blog, Dean Was Always By, which amazing title. Like, just yeah. The posts there are great. Good meta, good gifts, good everything. Just go check out her blog.
It'll make it worth the time that Amy made me blush on camera. So.
And also thank you, of course, to friend of the podcast, the Pixel Agora, designed our beautiful logo art. This is being recorded later on, but Misha himself said that it was lovely.
And I just got a delivery of the art from the podcast and the Pixel Agora's other art to hang on my wall, so you should head over to their Redbubble and do the same.
Please do. It's worth it. Absolutely worth it. And it's almost Christmas. So if you'd like to get in contact with us, we're on all the social media, Twitter, Tumblr. We're mostly Escaping Purgatory or Escaping Podcast on Twitter. And come chat to us about Supernatural because that's all we think about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we will be happy to talk about it with you.
Absolutely.
So this episode, we backtracked a little ways. And like, haven't we like seen that tree before? Okay, well, next time, hopefully, we can find our way out. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.